non-magical D&D 5e game. 20, 30, 16.
That's a 23.
I just kind of look at the phone, and then I unplug the phone, because I don't want the phone to ring anymore. As soon as you unplug the landline, your cell phone rings. Hardcore! Just hardcore! Like a music level screaming.
When you're here, your family! Punch it.
It's about 6'5". He's hot. He's hot. Roll insight for me. Oh no, you rolled really high, so I can't be an asshole either. I'm gonna need a decent streak of community hot. Hello!
Hello!
What's the story, Morning Glory? Welcome back to Say a Prayer for California Till Death Do Us Party. We are a non-magical D&D 5e actual play group, and we're gonna play a game of pretend for you today. I'm your Dungeon Master, Darlington Kilbride, and this is the party. Say hello, party.
Hello, party.
Excellent. We are joined today by some special guests, Spencer and Bree, and what they're doing here you will find out later on. So that's excellent. Thank you guys for coming. Before we jump into it, I just want to talk about some news that I learned today, because it's very important to me to talk about this with the internet. Apparently, there was a sighting of the Loch Ness Monster last night or this morning, but it looks like it's a baby Nessie. It looks like Littlefoot.
So she 3 feet.
But here's the thing. How's she reproducing then, fam? By budding? Or does she have homies down there? Are there more Nessies? Is there a nester?
Does she have eggs? Homeboy in Jurassic Park said it best. Nature finds a way.
True.
Goldblum knows. He knows.
Nobody warned me before the camera went on that was the story, and I am shook.
I apologize.
There's a baby Nessie.
There's a baby Nessie. It's very cute.
And as we keep saying baby Nessie, I'm just hearing the scene from Twilight.
Oh,
I love
Renesmee.
Twilight.
Oh, dear.
I want to do a full Twilight rewatch because I've turned the corner the same way that I did with High School Musical, where I now just love it unironically.
Can we just
I
watch
don't know if any of you are aware of this, but last summer I hosted a Twilight podcast. We reread the books together, and when we would finish a book, then we'd rewatch the movie,
That's amazing.
and we'd get together and talk about it every week. It was
Can
me
we
and Kiki.
please do something like that?
Yeah, can we just watch Twilight as like a side
I've
activity?
never even seen Twilight.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
you're in for
okay.
a treat.
You heard it here,
I've only seen
folks.
the first two.
You heard it here, folks. At some point, we are gonna all sit down as a group and we're gonna watch all of Twilight together and react to it. And
Mr.
I'm-
Science
Can
Theater
we do
style.
like, I was literally MST3K and then put on the Patreon?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
That's another thing. We're gonna have a Patreon soon, so look out for that. So let's recap the last session real quick. For those of you who weren't here last time, the party consisting of Seraphine, St. Marie, C.V. Dello, Russo, and Aubergine Dreams was voluntold by the local plague doctor Neuron and his trusty employee, Mr. Roman Gamble, that they were being contracted to, just make a quick stop in the abandoned Sequoia National Forest to pick up rare ingredients for a designer drug that may help those that the party intends to save from the Bureau's prison facility in just 3 weeks' time. Our party met up with the aforementioned Mr. Gamble outside of Neuron's base of operations and loaded them down with supplies. There was an altercation between CB and a long-lost friend that now works for the Bureau that did not end amicably. And CB hopped in the car with the rest of the group, and they headed out to pick up Seraphine's sister Dinah with the conflict unsolved. Dinah brought along her imaginary friend that she has as an adult. His name is Big Douglas, and he's great. They drove to the Sequoia National Forest with Big Douglas, and they set up camp. While they were in the car heading to the Sequoia National Forest, Dinah mentioned a gift that she had given Seraphine when they were reunited and asked if she interacted with it at all. And it happens to be the Pink Ranger that Miss Seraphine is holding right now. Seraphine saw the Pink Ranger sit up and wave at her, and her eyes light up. Nobody else saw that.
It was fucking real.
Sure.
I am being gaslighted. Don't believe these fucking people.
I was driving the car.
Nope. I was too busy
Do you want me
talking
to
to
put in
Big
the backseat or you
Douglas.
want me to drive the car?
Listen, I was too busy playing Gummy Worm Buddies with Big Douglas and Dinah, just passing the bag.
And gaslighting the shit out of me.
Seraphine grew tired of being gaslit and went to put the doll away, and she winked at her. So that's Seraphine as a doll that may or may not be able to wink in her back somewhere.
It may or may not my ass. It can wink. The eyes were glowing, and that's the hill that I'm dying on. God damn it.
The party and the Pink Ranger and CB's pet Rivet all unloaded from the car at the Sequoia National Forest and took a look around, went to explore. While they were walking around, they found an old visitor center near one of the giant sequoias that's in the park called the Fallen Monarch, and they explored the old visitor center. In that center, they found what looked like a field office that was still somewhat in use. There's a laptop, they found some news articles, they found some magazine covers, talking about a handful of scientists who were working on special projects specific to California. One by Dr. Forsythia Baptiste, one by Dr. Rona Flannery, and one by Dr. Ballard. They didn't find anything beyond that, and it was getting late and the sun was getting low, so the party settled down to sleep. At some point in the night, Dinah got up and just went for a walk. Got out of the trunk of the car where she and Big Douglas slept, and went and just took a look around. When the party woke in the morning, they found that nothing had been disturbed in the night. Though they did know that the trees where they were sleeping looked a little bit healthier than the trees at the exterior. The party went to bed, got up, went to explore again, found a floating ball of light, headed down one trail, and an old horse trail going the other way. The party decided to split. Dinah and Seraphine went down the old horse trail, while Aubergine, CB, and Seraphine's best friend Abe went to go follow the ball of light. As they were moving through the woods, they started to hear howling coming from somewhere deep within the forest. A few moments later, they could smell smoke. A few moments after that, they could see smoke. And that is where we ended things, and that is where we're going to pick back up. So, as I said, it's not very long before you can actually see like columns of smoke rising, especially with the sun now starting to get low in the sky. There's like a tall column of acrid gray smoke rising from roughly the direction of where the trail forks off into the two paths. You can hear the chorus of howls echoing off of the trees and the negative space as they sprint toward you. You're in two groups on opposite sides of the southwestern entrance to the park, watching the smoke climb higher and higher into the air. And thinking about those gnarled, skeletal black trees you saw when the mote of light in front of Aubergine, CB, Abe flickers, sputters, and finally dies out, leaving Abe, Aubergine, and CB standing in the middle of an empty trail. On the other side of the forest, Seraphine and Dinah have come to a halt on the old horse trail, straining to hear the origin of one or really any of the howls, when you hear movement in the trees behind Dinah. Have at it.
Can I roll perception?
Absolutely.
To see what the fuck is happening?
You can roll whatever you want.
So we hear howling, we see the smoke.
Mhm.
There's howling coming from behind me, Aubergine and Abe.
And there's a noise behind that.
Yes, there's a noise in the trees behind Dinah. On the trail where you are with Abe, the light has disappeared. You can still hear the howling. You hear it coming toward you.
And Dinah's with Aubergine, right?
no.
Seraphine. Seraphine.
Mhm.
This one.
Yes.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
What do you mean, this one?
This person that I'm pointing to.
What do you mean, you people?
We anticipated. 10. Wait. Modifiers.
I'm gonna do a perception check.
Okay.
16.
16. Okay. Damn. Your modifier's high. I forgot you're a bard.
Okay.
I got an 8.
Solid.
I got
You perceive
12.
that Dinah is there. She hasn't left. You can't see Big Douglas, but you assume he's close by, and that's what you get on an 8.
Well, I get
There's
the
some
asshole
wolves
running out
somewhere.
of everybody. Mom, if you're watching,
Don't do this to me.
fucking help me.
Dinah wishes to be perceived.
Mom's gonna
Oh
hop
my
in the
God.
chat and dox me. Okay, so 8, 16,
I got it. Okay. So I got 12.
And what did you roll?
Perception.
Perception. Okay. Seraphine, I think on your 8, it's not that you don't perceive it, it's that you are now hyper-focused on the potentiality that Dinah is in danger. So I think on an 8, you kind of get tunnel vision and focus in on your sister, and the howling and the smoke becomes less important than what might be an immediate threat. On a 12 CB, you notice another column of smoke rising, but from much, much closer.
Do I notice that it is coming back from like the parking lot and the visitor center? Is it coming from that direction?
If you had to guess, you would say that this column of smoke is rising from the head of the trail that you are currently on.
So if deeper into the woods.
Behind you.
So back in the direction we just came. From like the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, where's smoke coming from?
From behind us, from back in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Towards
CB
that
notes that there
direction.
is now another, it's thin, but it's getting thicker by the moment, column of smoke rising from essentially where you split onto this path.
I take the bandana from around my neck and I
Okay.
tie it, and I just look at Aubergine, and I look at Abe, and I'm like, I'm gone.
Okay.
And
So you're going to go back?
You're gonna go towards the smoke.
Yeah.
On a 16, Aubergine, you note that the fires, they don't feel spontaneous to you. They don't feel accidental. It feels a little bit like being herded. Okay. So CB, you're gonna run back. Aubergine, are you gonna go with?
Well, okay. Before I dash back, I want to make eye contact with you and eye contact with Abe and make it clear. I want to go and see what the hell is going on.
We're being herded.
What is that?
Like cats, cows,
Is
Awesome.
that,
I'm
is that
gonna
like when you,
struggle with a reference that
Oh,
would make
you know
sense
what?
for living in the Oxylux.
Is it like when the teacher's trying to gather everybody together?
You know, when you're in the city and there are dreadnoughts over here and there are dreadnoughts over there.
Oh, and they're like trying to enclose us into one spot
it's like the rest of us all. Yes, that's what's happening. But with
Okay.
fire.
with fire.
Yes.
So you think there's fire everywhere?
Yeah.
So would we
Roll
not?
investigation for me,
Me?
either one of you.
With my modifier, it was a grand total of 5.
Solid. I mean, five's a good number. It feels good.
21.
Woof. Okay. On a 21, you are kind of torn between going backward and going away from where you see smoke. So you turn from Aubergine and where the smoke is coming from and look down the trail. And as you're looking at the actual
Like smoke coming
Trail.
from that. Yeah.
you notice that there are kind of weird bumps in the road.
Like that.
There
like-
are. They look like they have been placed there deliberately. On a 21, you suspect that all of the alterations in the terrain that you see heading forward, the leaves don't look quite right. The leaves are curling in toward the trunk
trail.
of the tree.
They're like if the trunk is here, they're curling in this
Yes.
way.
Mm-hmm. You suspect that the trail that you are on is positively fucking lined with traps and snares.
Yeah, I was gonna do like a check for like monster or anything. Can I do an Arcana check?
Absolutely.
Again, for those playing at home, all type is Arcana. 17.
17. You think for a second about the fact that the light is now gone. Something kind of tickles in the back of your brain, and you realize that what you thought you were tracking to its source, to find the source of whatever weird tech is happening here, was that light. You were not tracking the main source of it. It was like an arm that had been extended from something bigger and more central. Roll insight for me about the light.
13.
I think on a 13 you're not sure, but you do wonder about the fact that the light was there when you guys arrived. It was there all night. Dinah said she saw it when she went on her walk. It was there waiting for you in the morning. If the light or whatever is controlling it or responsible for it wanted to hurt you, Why did it wait?
Do I feel like the light was a lure? Based on what Aubergine just told me about feeling hurted, do I feel like it was like a lure?
Yes, but
like,
you're
I'm
not certain
sure.
that is associated with the fire.
Yeah, I think maybe they're completely separate, or if they are related, that means it was a lure.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then the next thing I would like to do, if it is okay, I would like to send Rivet towards the smoke
Sure.
to do a scout.
Yeah.
And to like make sure he's like avoiding all of those traps.
You want to send him forward?
Like towards where I was gonna run originally.
Okay.
To scout.
Roll perception for Rivet.
22.
22. Rivet starts heading down the trail. You kind of command him to sort of serpentine back and forth to try and find where the traps are. I'm going to have you roll 3 dex saving throws for Rivet.
Death saving throws?
No, dex.
Dex. Okay, thank you.
Just killed your robot dog.
Your dog's dead now.
10, 22, and 15.
Okay. Rivet goes back and forth, and you can see that he trods across like almost like buried bear traps. They're not fully buried, but there's been like a crater carved out in the dirt to fit them, so they're harder to see. Rivet's weight does not trip any of them, so he's able to go forward and head down the trail. Rivet can interpret the data. He can just collect it. So I will tell you what Rivet sees.
Okay.
Rivet sees 9 traps on the road in front of you. Not all clustered together, but just sort of as you head down, there are 9 traps, or he sees some trees have netting bundled up in the boughs, and that's why some of the leaves are starting to curl down. It looks like they've been tended to go that way to hide the net. Rivet also sees that this like booby trap section of road, it doesn't last forever. It's not the whole trail. It's for maybe like an eighth of a mile. He goes like pretty far down the trail, but not so far that you completely lose sight of him. And where Rivet is standing now, as he kind of sweeps his vision, looking at it on your cyber deck, you see that there's a point where the traps stop, and it's just normal road. Both of you roll insight on that.
Before I roll for insight, I just want to say that when we learn about the booby traps, I look at Abe and I make the joke from Goonies, and I'm like, booty traps? You said booty traps. And me and Abe have a total moment about Goonies.
Abe like kind of turns a little bit and makes eye contact with you and pulls up his shirt and just truffle shuffles real quick. He does not have a lot of body fat to do it with, so it mostly looks like he's just rubbing his stomach, but the intent is there.
Yeah.
I've seen none of this.
And he just kind of like real quick pulls his shirt down and gives you a nod. Just a moment of like, yeah, I see you.
Okay.
9.
22.
Okay. Rivet can't interpret the data, but you can. And the data that you have is that you were in this forest overnight. Dinah went and wandered off by herself, and no harm came to her. As you are looking at this stretch of road, you're thinking about that. You're wondering, did they do this after we came? Is this for us? And as you're looking and thinking about it, you start thinking about how much time it would take to set all of it up and make sure that everything was concealed. And there's no way.
Right.
And if that's true,
How long
why are they here?
Yeah,
I think on a
why?
22, you're able to extrapolate that these traps are not for people.
Oh. Okay.
This is different then.
Got it.
So we're going to cut from you guys back to Seraphine and Dinah.
Yeah.
You hear movement in the trees behind Dinah. Dinah does not hear it. Dinah's still listening for the wolves and doesn't look as concerned as she should. She's more just like, hell yeah, ride the lightning, let's do this. She's more just like hype beast for the fight than anything. Do you tell her, or what do you do?
Actually, I take out my gun.
Dinah's just like,
No, very slowly, like moving, like I'm moving like at a glacial pace. And I say, Dinah, move towards me very slowly. Don't panic. Any noise.
nobody's
Towards me very
panicking.
slowly.
I'm grown. It's fine. You do notice that Dinah puts a hand on her hip and on her hip there's a huge fucking knife that's got like a bee carved into the handle. It's like a cutout of a honeycomb with a bee in it, and she just kind of like touches it almost like for reassurance. She takes first one step toward you, and then two. As she goes to take the third step, you hear the noise get closer to you. Roll perception for me again.
All right, 17.
Okay. DC was 15, so you're solid. There is a figure standing just beyond the tree line. It's humanoid, of medium size, standing perfectly still, actually, and relying on the shadows to kind of obfuscate them from your sight. They're not hiding, exactly. As you pull out your gun, you hear something that sounds like almost like a rubber band snapping. And the figure proceeds to come out of the woods. She looks directly at you, looks at your gun. You notice she has a crossbow, just up and ready to go in one hand. It's like a light one-arm one, Daryl Dixon style.
Okay.
She says, "There were 5 of you last night. Where are the other 3? Who was following Wisp?"
At that point, Dinah run to me, and then I point my gun at this person, humanoid thing. It's none of your business. Who are you? And why are you sneaking up on me and my sister?
The person who comes out of the woods is a young woman who looks like she can't be more than 15 or 16 years old. She's got heart-shaped face, chocolate brown, like waist-length hair, perfect spiral curls, except for the chunks that have kind of like come loose from her braid. Big brown doe eyes. She's just all in green and brown. She's also got a longbow on her back, and she's got a look of determination that suggests she knows exactly what's coming. She lowers her crossbow and maintains eye contact with you.
Take the safety off.
And starts to move towards you slowly. And as she starts to move towards you, she says, "You can't outrun them unless you get a head start, and the sun's low already. After dark, they're hungry. And all that hunger does is make them faster, stronger, more perceptive, more determined. Perfect hunters leading a coordinated attack. I can take you somewhere safe, but we have to go right now. Where are the other 3 people that were with you?"
I look at Dinah and just kind of see where she's at real quick, that sister thing.
Dinah has unholstered her shotgun, but you notice that Dinah is aiming it at the ground. Dinah has turned from you partially to listen to what this person is saying. She turns back to you and she says, "She could be bait. That's entirely possible. Or we could just have gotten lucky." And she turns back to the girl and she says, "Why do you want to know?" "I told you I'm going to take you somewhere safe. You don't have to tell me where they are. I will tell you this. Can you communicate with them? Can you talk to them?"
Yeah.
"Are they all reasonably intelligent?" This is very important.
Yeah.
"Tell them to run northeast. Due northeast 2 miles straight through the forest. They'll know when to stop. We have to go now."
And then we have a little talk back.
Mhm.
Okay.
You have your title.
So I just remembered mine today, guys. So I talk into mine. Hey, is anyone there? Abe?
Over.
Hey, so
Seraphine, there's traps on the road.
yeah, there's somebody here with the crossbow, and she said to run, and
What?
to tell you guys to run northeast.
I'm good. I don't know directions.
Abe knows directions, and see if
I
you
got
know
it, I got
directions,
it.
you're fine.
How
Yeah.
far?
How far?
2 miles.
2 miles northeast.
Copy.
I'm gonna follow Abe over.
Yeah.
Abe looks at you and he says, "Look, this person could be part of what's happening. That's entirely possible. But if we stay here, we're either going to die of smoke inhalation or teeth. So I'm going to run. You stay right on my ass. We clear?"
Yeah.
Go.
And as a testament to Seraphine and Abe's friendship, I dial back in and say, "And don't give Abe any lip. Go."
I recall Rivet and
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
So you guys begin sprinting northeast through the woods. Seraphine, the girl sprints off the fucking path as soon as you guys confirm that they're taking off. She's gone. the two of you, Dinah and Seraphine, have just entered the tree line behind her when you hear the sound of growling and snarling and the drumbeat of footfalls coming at speed. And to be implicitly clear, it is right on your heels. As the girl ducks under low-hanging branches and vaults over roots and fallen logs without slowing, and as you are running through dead and decaying underbrush, slipping and sliding, trying to make sure that Rivet doesn't get lost or swept off the path, I'm going to need a round of DC 15 Constitution and survival checks from everyone
Jesus.
to keep up with Abe and the girl.
Oh, this is not good.
The look on your face.
Constitution for me is a 12.
Survival for me is a 19. Then
19.
Constitution's a 19 as well.
This guy, and then plus that one, and then plus my dice, right?
It's the little number?
Yeah.
There's like a saving throw. It's saving throw, right?
Yes. I said check. Sorry, I misspoke. They're saving throws. Survival is a check because you can't do a saving throw for that.
Yeah.
It's my little number plus my dice.
Yes.
Yes.
I just barely made it, y'all. I rolled a 2.
Ooh.
My Constitution is 13, thank God.
Very,
Thank God.
very
like
important.
I just barely made it.
Okay.
My survival is a fucking 5.
It's 19 on both.
Okay,
Let me roll for Dinah.
Because I haven't done my survival yet either.
Okay, bitch.
Survival.
All
Oh,
right.
wait, just kidding. Hold on. Wait, hold on. I'm the wrong one.
I rolled a 9. 13. The dice are not my favorite.
Okay.
Man.
Dinah rolled a 21 on survival
Woof.
and a fucking 20 on Constitution. So, Seraphine, you actually start to fall behind. The little girl is fast. She
Well, actually,
is.
I wanted to be back anyway and have Dinah in the middle.
So
just in
yeah, so
case.
you start to trail behind, but the gap is getting wider and wider between you and Dinah. And Dinah fully stops,
I'm old, guys.
turns around, looks back at where the girl is headed, runs back, grabs your hand, and drags you behind her as she takes off sprinting and says, "No, we're going."
So tired. Holy shit, I can't breathe.
I know. Keep going. We gotta go. We gotta go.
I got a pain in my chest and I can't breathe.
So did anybody fail either of those checks?
My survival check, yeah.
Aubergine. You are a city girl. You've lived in Monroeville and Bella Muerte your entire life, and there are no trees there. It's chaparral. You come here as like a guest to the woods a couple of times, but you are not necessarily an outdoors kind of person. So you are following Abe. You're following him. You're right behind him. CB is next to you.
I was a performer, man. I know how to run. I have stamina.
And then it's
Yeah,
like
it's
you
not a problem.
blink and you're not 100% sure what direction they went. You start to hear growling. And in the woods behind you, about 60 paces out, slowly pads a large gray wolf. The wolf does not attack. The wolf sits back on its haunches and just tilts its head and watches you. I'm gonna need another round of Constitution and survival checks, please.
Can I do a perception check to notice that Aubergine's not behind me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nat 20.
Yeah,
Perfect
so
delicious. Perfect delicious.
Aubergine. And you are
you fucking kidding me today? I got a 19 Constitution and another 5 survival.
Let me roll for
I
Dinah.
don't even know what that was. Survival. I think I made it a
Dinah rolls a nat 20 on survival. Dinah got you. Yeah, so really, Dinah just keeps hold of your fucking hand. And Dinah is not slowing for you, so like, there's a little bit of dragging happening.
Okay, so
My hands are dirty now.
it was with that nat 20, it was 21 for Constitution, and then my survival was a dirty 20.
Okay.
And then my perception. Oh, was the perception check that was the?
Yeah,
No.
so the perception check was the nat 20.
Okay.
So you noticed that Dinah was gone. Or excuse me, that Aubergine was gone. So I think on both of those checks,
Yeah.
you are able to do what Dinah did. You're able to spot Abe and
Yeah.
kind of
I sent
foresee
Rivet after
his-
Abe
there-
to
okay.
call back to me.
Okay, good. So you send
So
Rivet
I can
after
track
Abe,
him.
you sprint back, and Aubergine is standing there.
Yeah.
and about 60 feet away, you're not really sure what it is, actually.
I don't know. I have no idea what this
It's
creature is.
big. It's got fur and legs and a tail. It's sitting up almost like a human, but not quite.
Do I notice that it looks very similar to the creature on the cover of that
Yes.
magazine we found?
Yes, you do.
So I rolled a 19 Constitution
Mhm.
and a 12 Survival.
Okay.
I would like to propose a shenanigan.
Lay it on me.
I have Charm Person as one of my cantrips.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that Aubergine, she's a city girl. She grew up very suburban. Her family always had dogs.
I will let you attempt this.
Does it count? This is the worst. This is amazing. I hope this happens.
Here
This
is
great.
what we are going to do for this. I am going to have you. So, are you going to cast Charm Person, or do you want to do a check for it?
I can do a check for it if that feels fair, since this is not a person, it's a wolf.
I'm going to have you do a check for it.
Okay.
But I will let you pick what skill you use. I'm going to tell you, though, the DC is high.
I'm going to use Persuasion because that's probably my highest.
Okay.
9 plus 4 is 13.
Tell me how you. There's a cat on our table,
I
guys.
know. I'm just going to grab her.
Tell me how you persuade this wolf.
Okay, we'll not do this.
Who's a good boy?
No, pretty much, yeah. I think I look at it. Oh, Pick'em's so cute. Such a cute little Pick'em. Oh. And I definitely go into like baby talk, like, who's the best boy? Who's the best boy?
The wolf does not advance. It's not 100% sure what you're doing right now. It's not aggressing. It's struggling to comprehend. So the wolf kind of just sits there. It sits there for a minute, and then it gets up onto all four legs and does like a long cat stretch. You know, like animals be doing.
Good stretch.
And he pads a few feet closer, probably feet or so. He does not sit down this time, but he continues not to advance.
I mean, I think that if the wolf advanced but didn't attack, I think I'm continuing what I was doing, but also trying to move
Back.
Slowly,
slowly back the F
Okay.
away.
I think I just want to do a stealth check to see how close I can get.
Yeah, if you would like to try and avoid being noticed by the wolf, absolutely go ahead and roll your stealth.
I have a shenanigan. If I have a shenanigan. With a +6 to my stealth, I got an 8. That's a natural 2. Fuck me. Okay, I have a backup plan. I have backup shenanigans. Uh-oh.
Oh!
Uh-oh.
What did the wolf roll?
The wolf rolled a nat 20 on perception.
Can Aubergine roll stealth?
You can, but this is gonna happen. CB, you start moving forward and you try to stay in line with where Aubergine is, so your body is behind hers. You're so focused on making sure that you're lined up with Aubergine and staying out of sight that way that you're not looking at your feet. And you trip over a tree root.
Yeah.
You cut yourself, there's no damage, but the wolf immediately whips its head to you and starts to advance.
Can I take some of my gummy worms, throw them in a different direction to see if the wolf goes after them because it's food?
Sure.
And Abe mentioned the wolves wanting to bite or eat me to death,
Sure.
and see if that distracts them. So
Roll.
Would that be
That'd be deception.
right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's
Or
deception.
sleight of hand.
I'm gonna say it's deception.
Okay.
Whoa! Whoops. Just threw my d20 across the room. It's fine.
That's nice over there.
That's a dirty 20.
Yeah.
Whoa! I have a +1 to deception.
That's what I have a +1 in stealth, so I'm like, me on stealth is not gonna help.
And I was really hoping it would help me out.
What'd you roll?
Dirty 20.
Okay. So the wolf rolled an 18.
Okay.
So you see its eyes track to where the gummy worms are.
Mhm.
It doesn't go after them, but it has caught its attention.
Okay.
It is, for the moment, distracted.
Can we run?
Yeah, I want to roll to run.
Roll.
And I like kind of.
Roll.
Huh. Can I like wrap my my metal arm like around Aubergine to try to help give her some lift as we run?
I mean, you can,
I
but
don't
that's
know.
going to put you at disadvantage. Because you've got the cyber pack and the cyber deck.
Oh yeah.
And another
So,
person.
yeah. You guys take off running. You have most of you anyway, have at some point in your life run for your lives. It's the memory of past horrors in your muscles and your blood that sort of propel you forward through the trees after the mysterious girl and after Abe. Seraphine, almost 15 years later, your body recalls the sheer willpower and dead panic of sprinting across a patch of highway in full kit in absolute blackness after a 3-day march with medical supplies for Abe, who was at the time lying at the bottom of a crater, with Semiramis holding his femoral artery shut. In a moment of sheer absurdity, you smile to yourself through the burn in your lungs and the constant pace that you're at. Because Abe is here somewhere, also having a bad time right now. And it could have gone a different way. CB, you remember stepping out of Millennia's private elevator at the reformatory, and you remember Jem's resigned expression swimming in your mind as far as you could in the opposite direction. And it's in this moment as you're running and you realize it was resignation. It wasn't apathy. It was the accepting of a loss. Aubergine, you've never run for your life, but you run for someone else's. Instead of brief flashes of a girl and a mote of light or Abe or the forest or the trees, you see Mariah, dressed all in white and holding her swollen belly instead of defending herself, being shoved into the back of a black bureau rock, and your body seeming to move without you as the car started to roll away. Muscle memory and the two people who have chosen to run ahead of you take you deep into the forest. And all the while, you can hear the wolves right on the edge of the light, just one stumble or wrong turn away from sinking their teeth into you. You reach a small clearing. You haven't gone nearly far enough yet. As January is sprinting through, you see Abe coming from the west. And he's fine. Yeah, he's full on cat on your left. You just, hey, and just keep sprinting. Kind of looks over his shoulder to make sure you guys are still behind him, and it's just like, so this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad.
I'm here.
Okay, so the 5 of you all kind of converge. The 2 of you see some girl who is heavily armed, and the light is now hovering over her shoulder. It's not like a halo or anything. It's just like a ball of light that's kind of trailing just behind her.
Do I get the feeling that it's her familiar?
You get the feeling that it does belong to her, yes.
Got it.
What the fuck is happening?
Oh, I'm so tired. I feel like I'm going to be.
CB's always so fucking awkward around people he doesn't know, but he notices that she's probably around his age. As they run, he nods her, hands her a gutty worm, and keeps running.
She looks at you.
I'm too busy.
She's also still running, and like Abe, she's got like a light sheen of sweat, but you get the sense that this girl does a lot of cross-country running. So she's chill.
Well, fucking bully for her.
Yeah, she kind of just like turns and has a gun. It's in her free hand, not her crossbow hand. And she's running kind of like this. And just kind of turns and looks at you for an explanation of what did he give me? Why? Just kind of.
I choke out something that says just eat it or don't. I don't care.
I think I flip into pace with Seraphine and I look at her and I'm like, this old gray mare is not what she used to be.
I think my legs are big. I see Jesus coming for me and I'm scared.
I look at her and I say, don't go to the light.
It's so quiet where the light is. I don't gotta run anymore.
As you are commiserating on the fact that you may expire soon from running, from just running so much.
This is Seraphine's extinction event, guys. Cardio.
And 2 things happen at once. First thing that happens is you hear another howl, louder and hungrier, and much closer than any of the previous ones have been. Second thing is that a large gray wolf, maybe 5 feet long and about 100 pounds of teeth and fur, comes padding into the clearing and stops about 50 to 60 feet from the girl. Roll a perception check for me.
Fucking wolves.
23!
Yo!
Is that 20?
I got a nat 20.
On a nat 20, you're right. Yeah. On a nat 20, you are able to determine these are not her wolves. Largely because she levers her crossbow directly at the wolf. As she levers the crossbow on it, you look at her and you notice that her form is perfect. She's breathing normally. This girl can't be more than $1.15 soaking wet. She is armed to the teeth. She is staring a wolf right in the face and appears more inconvenienced than anything else. On that perception check, you also notice 2 more gray wolves of approximately the same size that follow a few moments later as the girl is confronting the wolf. They sort of pincer in. There's one to your left, about 30 feet away. One to your right, about 30 feet away. They wait in this formation, this kind of triangle formation that they've created, patiently, panting with exertion or hunger, occasionally trotting back and forth from one side to the other, like they're patrolling. But they do not advance. What would you like to do?
I would like to preface the statement by saying that neither Jordan or Aubergine are advocates for animal cruelty.
Very important. Very
Yes,
important. I know
very
we're fighting wolves. We love wolves
We
here.
love
Okay.
wolves.
All
Gray
animals
wolves are
animals, guys. We love animals.
very important. Gray wolves are actually endangered
You can't
in
really see
California.
it, but my ring is wolves.
Gray wolves are endangered in California. All of the things that we meet are going to be California based. So this is actually a shout out to them, even though some of them are probably going to get socked up one time in a minute here. Yeah, save the wolves.
Yeah.
Aubergine?
Save the wolves. Aubergine references the classic film starring Jackie Chan and Christina Rush Hour,
Oh.
and looks at the young girl and says, "Shoot his ass, Lee! Shoot his ass!"
Is there anything that you would like to do in this same instance? Anybody else?
Can I do an inside check on these fucking wolves that I've never seen before in my life?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna roll survival.
Okay.
Should I roll nature instead, maybe?
For this, because you guys are in the woods, you could roll survival, you could roll nature, you could roll animal handling, but you can roll whatever check you like if you can explain it to me.
I'm gonna roll animal handling. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Okay.
I just want to go home. 14.
19.
I think on a 14, you look at Abe, and Abe just...
I'm not gonna shoot it.
No, I think you start to edge closer to the wolf on that 14, and the wolf holds its place. It stops sort of surveying, and it comes to one spot and just kind of looks at you curiously. You're not super close. You've only edged maybe 5 feet from where you were. And Abe was just, seriously?
Nice. We had dogs back home. Remember?
Dogs. Yeah. This is a dog. This is basically a dog on cocaine. This is
Yes.
what we're dealing
Yes,
with.
we had pit bulls.
I've seen a dog on
Never
cocaine
had
before.
We've had pit bulls.
Okay.
We
All
love
right.
pit
Just
bulls.
we love pit bulls.
We get pit bulls.
Fine. Do what you're gonna do.
I was going to anyway. Thank you for your having.
As you say, shoot his ass, Lee. I am gonna need everybody to roll initiative.
Oh,
Man.
That was a magic 20!
Damn.
We're gonna break this combat already, guys.
Right?
I'm happy to be in combat, but God, it was
I got
good.
18.
We out here.
I am pleased.
18.
Okay. What y'all get?
I got an 18.
And then you got a nat 20.
Yeah.
And then what are your modifiers? What's your proficiency bonus?
Dirty
30, 20.
+2.
So 20, 22. Damn. Check y'all out. And then CB, what'd you get?
So the dice plus my initiative bonus was 10.
It's okay. Dinah only got a 13. For Abe.
Maybe that makes
Woof. Okay.
You're so cute.
Abe got a 7.
Hey,
Oh,
what the
boy.
fuck?
Abernathy.
You're walking toward a wolf right now, and he feels some type of way about it, and it's very distracting.
Fucking wolf.
Fucking
If
wolf.
I bite.
Wolf.
It's wolves.
So, the wolves. The top of the order is Aubergine.
Oh, Jesus. So what I would like to do is I would like to use one of my second level spells,
Okay.
Bliss. And it says, choose a humanoid that you can see within range. The target must succeed on a wisdom save or become charmed by you. A creature charmed by the spell is lost in a trance of extreme happiness for the duration. It is incapacitated and must roll a d10 at the start of each of its turns to determine behavior for that turn.
What's the wisdom save DC?
13.
Which wolf do you charm?
How many are there?
There's
three.
one at the top of the clearing, in front of the girl, and then there are two that are kind of triangulated on either side of you guys.
I think I want to charm one of the ones in the back.
Okay.
Because
Left
the
wolf, right
girl
wolf?
is she's
Yeah.
got a gun on the one in front.
She's ready to
Yeah.
kill.
I'm gonna say the one on the left. Like it's a little triangle, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all here.
You're
facing-
inside of a triangle of wolves. You're in a
we are
Bermuda
in
triangle.
In the
of
triangle.
wolves.
Okay,
Yup.
I thought we were facing the triangle.
No,
in
the
the
top is
triangle.
right in front of the girl, and then the two wolves are on either side of you, left and right. So
Okay, so I'm the one on my left.
okay, so the one on your left. Okay, and then you roll the d10 or do I roll the d10?
If you fail the wisdom save, then it's incapacitated and must roll a d10 at the start of each of its turns.
Okay,
So
okay.
you have to do a wisdom save, and then if you fail,
So
the
he
wisdom
he rolled a 5.
save,
So this wolf is probably going to do some weird shit real soon here, but it's not his turn yet. So when we do get to his turn, because I will probably forget, remind me.
Yeah.
Okay, a successful turn from Aubergine. Charmed a whole big ass wolf. Next up in the order is Seraphine.
Oh shit. Getting in front of the wall.
You are next to it almost.
To it.
Yeah, so top of the triangle, wolf, wolf. and then you guys are like in that negative space between the
It's on
wolves.
like catty corner to it.
Yeah, there's about 30 feet from equilaterally from each wolf to where you guys are.
Okay. I kind of want to stick my hand out and see if it'll sniff it.
Roll persuasion.
Make my hand out as my pleasure fund. 13.
13. On a 13, do you advance toward it or do you just hold your hand out?
I just hold my hand out. I kind of crouch down and
The wolf starts to move closer to you. It probably gets about 15 feet away from you. It doesn't close the distance between you. Roll insight.
16.
On a 16, you know, you did have dogs growing up, and you recognize pack tactics when you see them. The wolves are not advancing because they're confused. It's almost as if they are waiting for something. The wolf on the right is now about 15 feet away from you. It isn't aggroed yet. You haven't triggered its aggro radius, but it's like they're in a holding pattern. Next up in the order actually is Dinah. Dinah reaches into her back pocket and pulls out a fucking sling. And she stoops down, completely, really unconcerned with the wolf. She stoops down, she picks up a handful of rocks, and she puts them in the cradle of the sling and stretches it back as far as she can pull it.
What kind of David and Goliath should you do that?
Sunday school had to come in handy at some point. Okay. And kind of surveying the group, she is struggling to hold it and she aims it just a little bit up. She deals 5 damage to the wolf. Oh, just hitting it straight on in the face with a bunch of pebbles. Just right in the eyes.
What's wrong with you?
I had to run and I'm not happy about it.
Totally,
So now it's everybody's
you
problem.
totally screwed my diplomatic mission to hell.
I didn't shoot your wolf. I shot the other wolf.
Now they're all going to be angry because you shot the other wolf.
Well, I'm angry also. So now we're all having a bad time together here in the forest.
No.
What a great vacation you have brought me on.
I told you it wasn't a vacation to begin with. We're working.
It looks like we're about to be eaten by wolves.
Thanks
So-
to you. Congratulations.
I mean,
You're an asshole.
they were already here. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Hope you don't go to heaven for that one, Dinah.
Wow.
Dinah cackles. We know I wasn't going.
Hey, haven't I
Never
got
heard that before. Principle of the thing.
I'm not invited to the kingdom, nor do I want to go. Okay, so you and Dinah are
Oh,
bickering
God.
instead of dealing with the wolves. The wolves that Dinah hit, kind of like, you know when like you blow in a cat's face and it kind of just scrunches back? It's perplexed by what just happened. Like, yeah, it hurt, but it's also just like, what the fuck, man? I was just looking. And while that's happening, Abe sighs very, very deeply at the both of you because he has heard this his entire life. And he's going to pull out not his shotgun, but the shotgun that Roman Gamble loaned. Abe rolled a 22 to hit this wolf.
Hell yes.
However, Abe is not going to shoot the wolf. Abe trains his shotgun and shoots at the wolf's front paws. The wolf that's closer to you backs up quickly. And Abe turns to you and says, "We should probably go, right? We should probably go."
Yeah.
Why are they waiting?
From what I know about wolves, there's usually an alpha.
Oh,
They're waiting for their
I know what
master.
that means.
Oh, okay, you do know what that means.
Yeah.
It's not here, so I think we should go while it's not.
Okay.
And that's the end of Abe's turn.
And I don't want to hear anything else about the time I fired my gun because Abe fired a gun. And now there's an alpha wolf after us. So
Can we talk about this later?
no, I think we should talk about this now because as often as you guys gave me shit for this the first half of the journey,
Okay,
I feel
CB,
vindicated.
you are up.
I think I look at Abe and Seraphine. I'm like, we're not trying. Are we trying to hurt these guys or are we trying to leave?
I don't particularly want to shoot a dog. I will if it gets you in this car today, but I'm not.
Should we go back to the car? I don't know.
The world's worst salesman.
It's an expression. It's an expression.
Yes,
I'm not going back to the car.
I'm aware.
Abe is very pleased with himself and kind of just like puts his shotgun down and is just like, I did a good goof.
Fucking stupid, Abe.
Aubergine reaches out to give him a fist bump because it was a good goof.
Immediate knuckles.
Call my car warranty next.
Alright.
I know.
I don't love either of those.
I don't want to be. No, we're like that crowbar.
I think you should laugh and swing your crow hard.
Just do one of these.
Yeah! Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
Do the space cowboy.
Oh, I have an idea.
Okay.
Do I have meal bar?
You do.
I take my crowbar and a meal bar. I play like this all the time in my lab when I'm bored. So I take a meal bar, I make eye contact with a couple of wolves, I toss the meal bar, so they are paying attention to it.
Question.
Yeah,
Wrapped or unwrapped?
I unwrap it.
Okay.
Yeah, I unwrap it. So they can smell it, I wave it.
The two, you don't get the wolf that's the furthest
Yeah.
away, but the two that are like right
What?
on you,
Yeah.
you have their attention.
So I lob it up, I take my crowbar, and I swing it. And
How do you know what baseball is?
I don't.
I don't think he does.
CB has no idea what baseball is. He makes up games to keep himself entertained.
This kid thinks he made up baseball?
Roll
Do you think you made
with
a
that.
I don't know what baseball is. I play stick hit things.
With that, I'm gonna say roll deception for me.
Deception? Yeah, that's valid.
I'm sorry that is just part of our first merchandise drop. Play stick hit things.
Stick hit things.
What's your favorite stick hit things to? Okay.
Unless you rolled a nat one, it doesn't matter. This wolf's the fucking idiot.
Excellent. I got an 11.
Okay,
California
so that's
stick hitters.
one. Okay, so one wolf
I prefer the
randomly
things.
rolls a fucking 18 on wisdom, and I'm not really sure how that happened. That wolf is focused in on what's up. The wolf that's nearest to Aubergine, though, out of there. You managed to catch it on like an upswing
Yeah.
with the crowbar, so it arcs and goes up and over
Yeah,
the wolf.
top fly.
Into where there's like a cluster of trees and bushes
Uh-huh.
and kind of dead underbrush,
Yeah.
and that wolf races off after it, like when you throw a tennis ball for
Yeah.
a dog. The wolf is fucking out of there, and you can hear him like rooting through all of the underbrush, trying to
Yeah.
find because you can still smell it. So you didn't get the top one or the nearest one, but you did get one of those wolves. It's gone. It
Okay.
has basically left the board.
So I assume that's my action and not an object interaction.
Yes.
Okay.
Was that the one that I charmed that ran away?
Yes.
No.
Oh
No, you're fine.
no! Wait a minute. I have
It
to roll
can't
for
be.
that.
At that point, it can't be.
Oh, yeah.
It's you're turning it.
What happens to it on a 4
Oh.
for bliss?
It does whatever, basically, things go our way.
Okay. So we'll say that you do that at the same time then. We'll say that because it is still one round,
Yeah.
we'll say that as Aubergine casts Charm
I
Person,
lied.
or was it Charm Person or Bliss?
It was bliss, so actually I lied. With a 4, the creature begins muttering about a nonsensical topic, and it has to roll again. I don't know how this is gonna play out with the wolf.
Okay.
Chases its tail.
You, as you cast, or as Bliss is being cast, you hit the pop fly and knock the neon meal bar further away from you. Probably, you get some air. It's probably about 70, 80 feet away from you minimum. You don't hear any talking, but you do hear, like, you know when dogs, I don't know why I said that, like, Pikey from fucking Snatch?
Like Dags.
Dags. I don't know why I said it like that.
Like that.
You hear like a whoa, 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 whoa. Like it's trying very hard to communicate something. Probably where the fuck is it? So you hear that happening as this wolf takes off. You can hear it like scrabbling and just woo, woo, woo. It's that wolf's having a bad time right now. And it has to roll again, right?
Yeah.
It rolled a 10.
So with a 10, the creature drops to its knees and just stares into the sky.
Amazing!
So the wolf.
Amazing!
Okay. So the wolf, you can hear it like moaning, I guess, in the dirt. What you do not see is this wolf is howling and scrabbling through the dirt. And that's it for the wolf. We're back at the top of the order.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
We are back up to Miss. Oh, actually, no.
Wait a minute.
The young girl.
Young girl,
has to
yeah.
go.
Oh my god. I love this.
I'm about to get real stupid. Just
Oh,
wait.
this makes me so happy.
I'm excited.
Oh,
This got
Lord.
exactly as wild as I was hoping that it would. Okay, so the young girl drops her crossbow to the ground and pulls her longbow off of her back, knocks an arrow, and arches it way, way up over your heads. And when she releases the arrow, fine threads shoot out of the tip of the arrow, and a net of what almost looks like branches shoots out at the wolf that is in front of her and completely entangles it. That wolf is now considered restrained. On its next turn, it gets to make a saving throw to see if it breaks free, but she cast Entangle, so it's basically just covered in fucking brambles and not happy about it.
Love how you translated that magic into a mechanic. Like that.
Thank
No,
you!
chef's
I was
kiss.
really worried about going to the woods.
Chef's kiss.
Thanks. We are back up to Miss Dreams. I'm scared. What do you want to do? I'm so concerned.
So this is
This is
what
gonna be good.
I would
I'm
like
excited.
to do. So we're going to say, because Aubergine grew up with T9 texting, so we're going to say that she can pull her compact out and run a program very quickly without necessarily having to look at her
I'll
compact.
concede. I'll concede to that.
And what she wants to do is she wants to use disguise self
Yes.
to
Yes.
run a program that makes her look like a wolf,
Yes.
and then go up to the other wolf and shake her ass in front of it and distract him with the booty.
Wolf on wolf twerking, huh?
I figured that it might end up being
I mean,
a no.
unequivocally, yes. I'm just trying to figure out the mechanics of it.
I just wanted to throw it out there, even if it was a no.
Okay, this is what I will say. Disguise self and alter self are two different spells. Alter self is typically the one, or like minor illusion. I'm going to let you run it. Roll a straight intelligence check for me with advantage to just kind of alter the program on the fly to make you look like a wolf.
My intelligence?
Mhm.
That's a 17.
Yeah, you're good. You still see Aubergine,
Yeah.
but there's almost like a projection in front of Aubergine that,
From the compact.
yep, and that is what the wolf interacts with. Next, I'm gonna have you roll persuasion on this wolf.
That's what I was hoping you would say. That's a 22.
How do I do this without it being gross? Okay.
We're all furries here.
Don't make that statement.
Excuse me.
Don't make that canon.
Excuse me. Calling ourselves out.
You create an image of a wolf that is slightly smaller than the wolf that's in front of you.
It's like the sexy rat. I'm sorry.
It's a sexy wolf. Like, this wolf is
It's a sexy wolf.
smaller, but it looks like it's built more for running. It's got a lot of lean muscle, finely shaped snout, whatever it is that makes wolves good. I'm not a fucking scientist. You link up to this other wolf, and the wolf is very clearly interested immediately, but you turn around and just like throw it back in a transmutation circle real quick on this wolf, and this wolf breaks out of formation, begins to advance on you, but not out of aggression, it's out of horny. It's still very quick. It's still very eager.
Out of horny. I'm writing that down.
That's also on the armor store.
The wolf totally goes for it. So you have fully distracted this wolf. However, you are now its sole focus.
I think with my bonus action, I just want to talk to them and say, this wolf is very distracted. Please make sure it doesn't hump my leg.
Fair enough. Seraphine.
Don't let the wolf hump my leg.
I want to actually bring out the Power Ranger.
Okay.
I don't know what we're going to do yet, but I want to bring her out. Walk me through the scenario again.
One wolf is somewhere in the woods and has just finished screaming and is now staring at the sky. So that guy's probably not an issue anymore.
That's a movie.
The girl has entangled the wolf in front of her. And the final wolf is currently being charmed by a sexy aubergine wolf. So that's the situation that you're in.
Never done this before. I'm not sure what this thing can fucking do, so I'm just gonna ask her, hey, so what do you do? How can you help me? So I'm gonna roll, because I don't know what she does.
Okay.
I just have this toy that, like, whose eyes glow and who winks at me, so I'm sure she's interesting.
Roll persuasion with advantage. 8. You hold the Pink Ranger in the palm of your hand and you ask her what she does. There is no response because she is a plastic toy who may or may not wink. Say that was a free action to ask her what she does. Is there anything else that you would like to do? If you want, I will let you use your action to ask again. From next to you, Dinah is feverishly rubbing a Lisa Frank sticker back onto her shotgun, and she's like really trying to get it on there, and she says, maybe you're asking the wrong question. Does not look at you.
Then could you enlighten me as to what the right question is? Because you trekked her halfway across the known universe. What is the right question to ask her?
What is it that you want?
I want these wolves to go the fuck away so we can just get on with our day and our mission.
Dinah grins at you. The Pink Ranger starts to feel warm in the palm of your hand. You're not holding her tightly, but you are holding her securely. She slips out of your grip into the underbrush. And for a moment, nothing.
Of course not. Why would she hide?
And then from all around you, you hear,
Oh no.
you realize it's coming from the doll.
You guys hear this, right?
No, you all hear this. You all hear it.
Where are they? There's
It is
more
a
of them.
louder howl than any of the other howls that you have heard. And you're right in front of it. You're right on top of her, so you can hear that it is centered on her. So she fell out of the palm of your hand into the dirt and then screamed very loud.
Why are you like this?
Okay, but what do the wolves do?
Who are you?
Yeah, really.
All of the wolves, including the one that you cannot see who is staring at the sky, all of them snap to attention. And you can see them like scenting the air. Roll insight.
All of us are just.
All of you.
Oh,
You all heard it.
17.
17.
16.
11.
Okay, so Seraphine. The Pink Ranger actually gets added to the initiative.
What? What?
What?
She goes on the same turn as the wolf.
New player approaches and it's the pink fucking ranger.
So we're gonna say it's canon. That's how she's standing in the dirt screaming.
Yatta!
Fucking game, guys.
Next up in the order, we have Dinah. As a bonus action, Dinah looks over her shoulder and says, BD, I'm gonna need your help real quick.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Helping.
Oh, no.
Unless you don't want me to.
I mean, my doll just screamed at me, so there's nothing you do that would surprise me necessarily.
Good.
But I'm concerned.
Dinah says good and reaches out her hand like she's holding somebody else's and puts one hand out. She's not holding any technology.
Oh, God.
And yet a faint image starts to flicker in and out of view. And it gets a little bit stronger the longer she focuses until you see yourself.
This is coming from like Dinah and Big Douglas.
How does Dinah have technology, not technology? What is happening?
The illusion is very simple. It's just of the entire party. It's a static image. And the image is of the 5 of you lying in the underbrush, mulch.
Dinah, how dare you?
Dinah turns to you and says, we got about 10 seconds before they realize that's not us.
Let's go.
You're gonna leave your.
And
brain-
Dinah is going to take her movement
Let's go.
and run 30 feet towards the girl and the wolf that's tangled up. And that's Dinah's turn. She's not going to take an action.
I run. We run.
I take.
We follow Dinah.
Okay, so everybody runs.
I grab the doll.
So we are actually going to pause the initiative since everyone has decided to run and no one's going to be a fucking hero. The young girl hears Dinah. She hears what's going on behind her and like the screaming and the dog screaming. She doesn't break formation even once. She stays
Amazing.
focused on this wolf, but she hears Dinah say, we got about 10 seconds, and sees Dinah tear past her and immediately holsters her bow and takes off after Dinah. She overtakes Dinah and begins to lead you deep into the woods. You get about 100 feet out before the wolves realize that it's not you and begin to chase after you. As you are being chased through the woods by 3 wolves, I am going to need a constitution check to run for your life.
Again? Oh, okay. I'm not going to grab that. I got 16 plus my stuff, which is a 29.
18.
I got a 7.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Dinah and Abe also both failed. So you guys begin to sprint after the young girl, and she's just so fucking fast. Dinah loses in the front. She pulls ahead just a little bit too far, and Dinah's not sure where she's gone. Dinah doesn't stop running, but she does kind of slow down and try to survey the area, figure out which direction she went, and looks at Abe to see if Abe knows which direction they went, because she definitely fucking doesn't with an 8. And young Abernathy rolls a 18. So I'm going to say that the lot of you kind of start to slow down, and the wolves do start to gain on you. Abe comes to a dead stop for a second and just looks. You can tell that he's trying to look for footprints in the underbrush, and he looks behind him and clocks that the wolves are getting closer and just says, we gotta keep going. Let's go. And Abe just keeps running in the last direction that you saw the young girl coming from. You continue down the trail. The wolves are now probably about 30 feet behind you. It's almost like you can feel their breath on the back of your neck. You continue your sprint through the woods, and after about 5 minutes of hard running, Dinah say, look, and Dinah points, and the ball of light from before the wisp is floating up ahead like a beacon. And CB, you realize that this is not only her familiar, the young girl, you suspect that it is there specifically to guide people who find their way there that shouldn't. So Dinah takes off sprinting in the direction of the wisp, and when she gets directly under it, the young girl almost appears out of nowhere. She kind of just like comes out of the bushes and nods to you and keeps running. You
Not
guys,
just set a waypoint for us.
yeah, you guys run 20 minutes straight. No breaks, no stopping. And then you hear the girl speak for the first time in a long time, but the words don't make sense. What she says is, Mom, I'm bringing friends home for dinner. Leave the front door unlocked. You don't know what the fuck that means. Until finally a gigantic clearing swells in front of you as her light, the wisp, illuminates it. She vaults a fallen log directly into the clearing and turns to face you and yells, come on, let's go, come on, let's go. She ushers you all over to her, levers her crossbow, and fires in rapid succession, and casts Hail of Thorns on these wolves. She rolled a nat 20.
Hey!
So, the young girl fires a crossbow, and it's sort of like the arrow that she fired before, except that the At the apex of the arc, when the arrow is fired, the tip splinters into shards and sprays everything in like a 10-foot radius. So she hits the first wolf for 13 damage, and she hits the second wolf for 6 damage. Who do you think is in the back? Who do you think is the last person to make it into the clearing?
I think I rolled the lowest on the con saves, the 7.
Okay.
So probably me.
So the
With
second
on my tail.
you feel like the toe of your trainer's cross this fallen log, you get on the other side of it and you kind of almost slam into your friends. This wall of shimmering light, it's like a greenish gold color, flies up behind CB, and you watch as it encapsulates the entire clearing. And you watch as the 3 wolves slam directly into it and are thrown back, barking and yipping and sort of pacing back and forth. Through the wall of light, you see 2 more wolves stop just short of the barrier, and one of them is nearly twice the size of the other. And it is not a gray wolf. It's a red wolf. You've seen big dogs, you've seen Great Danes. This is one of the biggest fucking animals you've ever seen.
Like unnaturally big to them.
Surprisingly large, not necessarily unnaturally.
One of those things where it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah. Like when you see a Great Dane and you're not ready for it, and you're just like, ah, shit, that's a big, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And is that like on the inside of this force field or on the outside?
They are on the outside
They
of
are
the force
outside.
field.
All of
Mm-hmm. They do like attempt to slam into it a few more times, but the barrier holds, and eventually they do slink back into the shadows. We are out of initiative, my bud. Whew. How are you feeling after your marathon sprint and daring escape from the jaws of the wolf pack?
I'm tired.
Oh, I'm hella tired. I think Aubergine really does this on the ground. Like, just fuck this.
We are going to pause for just a second in the breath after battle. We're going to pull out of the microcosm of the 5 of you and this new girl and zoom out to a wider view of the forest. A few hundred yards off the trail, somewhere to the east of the party, where 2 blinking sets of eyes come into focus just as the party turns their backs. One set, bottomless black. The other is stone gray and intelligent, and if we follow the sightline, trained patiently upon them. It's difficult to say just how long they've kept their watch. It's difficult to even make out the shapes in which the eyes are set, despite the fact that it's nowhere near fully dark yet. It's almost like the woods don't want the shapes to be perceived, and so they simply are not. But what I can say with certainty is that the gaze stay fixed on what's about to happen. We are going to go ahead and introduce our guest now, Spencer. Thank you for coming, by the way, for playing an unnamed character.
You can tell that I'm not Roman because I'm wearing a hat.
If you watched last week, Spencer was here with no hat. You saw the little archer girl that's leading them in the woods, watching them from the opposite side of the clearing that you were on, but she didn't see you. Most people don't. You follow them silently through the woods at paces breakneck and leisurely, and have had a kind of day to observe these people undisturbed. What do you think? Are they up to snuff?
I think they're lost as hell. The little one looks like he probably hasn't seen trees before. Yeah, I think that these people are just way out of their depth. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
So you don't think, based on what the information that you have right now, that they would be chosen?
Oh, God, no. Well, not quite. The big guy, maybe. He seems to, have a good head on his shoulders. I don't know if I could get him alone.
You are on the outside of this barrier of like glittering green and gold light. The party has turned to face the young girl who is now addressing them. While this is happening, would you like to observe, or would you like to try to get through the barrier?
For now, I'm just going to observe. Could you describe this barrier in a little bit more detail for me? I'm not quite sure what it is.
So the barrier it's like a force field more than it is a barrier.
Okay.
It wraps around the entire clearing that they're in. There is a massive, absolutely insanely large giant sequoia in this clearing that the young girl appears to be heading toward. It's also encapsulated within this force field. The force field is it's only about 100 feet high. It's not anything crazy. It's just, it looks more like it was thrown up hastily than anything else. Roll an intelligence check for me.
I got all of a 12 there.
You can tell that it's some kind of technology, and it probably has to do with those fucking people who live in the woods. Not the wolf ones, the other ones. But you can't determine what kind of technology it is, so...
I'll have to come back another time when there aren't people nearby and take a closer look.
Okay.
I will make a mental note of it and mark it down on one of my maps.
I think in this moment, as you're kind of stumped by this wall, your horse...
Oh boy. What does my horse think of it?
Your horse kind of shakes his head like he's getting kind of settled in to watch.
Okay.
And he says, you know, I think that if we just wait, they will eventually let it down and we can go inside. Or I could just try to run through it. We haven't tried that yet.
There's a reason we haven't tried that yet. So let's just wait.
All right. We'll wait.
I would just like clarification, even though I know that we as players don't know about this.
Yeah, you don't know that I'm talking to my horse.
Uh-huh.
Or that my horse
Sure
can
is.
talk and has a British accent. You don't know this.
Yeah, you have no idea that this is
All right,
happening.
awesome.
Yeah.
Your horse throws you a little bit of attitude because he thought his idea was very good, and he doesn't necessarily like that you shot it down, but he does, you know, begins to walk around the perimeter of the force field to kind of give you a chance to get a gauge of it. His hooves make no noise in the underbrush. They never do.
Yeah. Can I roll a perception check to see if I can see like any like emitters or something in the ground, like where this force field might be coming from?
Sure.
Okay. An 18.
On an 18, you make your way around the diameter of the tree, and you don't find an emitter. You can tell that it's centered near the big tree in the clearing. But as you are making your rounds, you actually get around behind the tree, and you find a section of the barrier it almost looks like it's faded. It's the same kind of green, but it's very light and it's very faint, and it's about a 2.5, 3 foot patch that is fainter than the rest.
So just wide enough for a person to get through, but not a horse.
Your horse might be able to do it.
How do you feel about waiting here while I go inside and take a look?
Be my owner. And he doesn't kneel all the way, but he does kind of like bend his front paws. It's almost like he like lowers himself so you can get down comfortably.
Okay.
And then he raises back up to his full height and actually turns sideways. So his body will block that patch once you make the attempt to go through.
Yeah. Well, when I get off, I'll pat him on the snout and say, "Thanks, Chief," and I'll slip on through.
It feels kind of strange as you walk through this patch. You can tell it's much weaker. It's like it's the opposite side of the origin point almost. So it's getting the least power. And it feels almost like walking through mist. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't sting. It does kind of tingle, though, as you go through. You find yourself at the base of this massive tree, now behind the party and the group that they've run into. Would you like to move to a better vantage point, or do you want to hang out here for a minute?
Yeah, I'll just kind of sidle around until I can just kind of peek outside the side of the tree. You know, eavesdrop, but not from out in the wide open.
Okay. Roll stealth for me with advantage.
Oh boy. You don't know what you just asked of me.
I do know what I just asked of you. I've seen your sheet.
Oh, wow. Can you see my sheet on D&D Beyond? If not, I'll just message you what my result is, just so that...
Oh, you're solid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you what it is that you see, and where you're going to cut back to the party. As the rider, dressed all in black with his hat pulled low over his eyes, sidles up to the base of the tree and sort of just peeks around to get an eye on things, he sees the young girl who led you through the woods, who finally lowers her crossbow and kind of rolls her eyes at you and says, "Let me guess. You're from the city and you thought you'd see the sights." She turns on her heel and just starts heading for that big tree that I mentioned before. You, even from where you are, it's difficult to fathom the size of this tree. It stretches probably 200, 300 feet above your heads. And you do kind of get that feeling of being an ant. You came to this forest to get some leaves, plants, and you've been chased by wolves, and now this girl is here, and you don't understand the tech, and you do get that sense of being very small, in an environment that was not meant for you.
I say to her, retreating back, with all due respect, and that's a fuck of a lot because you just saved our lives. I'm gonna need you to bring this ass down from level 10. You're at 10 right now. I'm gonna need about 6 or 7.
You hear laughter from above you, and then you hear January breathe Borden. It's a woman's voice with a thick Irish accent, but there's no real ire in it. And the girl that's been identified as January kind of winces at the use of her full name. So these new friends of yours, would they happen to have come from the direction of that rather large brush fire our dear elsewhere in the hearts have gone to see to? Yes, but you can rest easy knowing that they had no fucking clue we were here, and thus probably didn't start the fire. There are 2 more east of us. It's going to be a long night. And of course they didn't, silly. The voice stays the same volume, but starts to get closer. And you see why when that same sort of green light that the wall is made of spirals down around the trunk, the largest tree, which is dozens of feet thick. A figure descends the stairs so quickly you're not even really sure her feet are touching all of them, jumping the last 10 feet or so and actually landing next to the young girl.
What's January's full name?
It's spelled Brigid, but it's Brigid, Brigid. And then her last name is Borden. The woman who is approaching you now, she's got thick, curly, kind of coppery red hair that's half pulled back. A couple of strands have come loose from sort of the effort of her day. Vacation water blue eyes, and just a face full of freckles. And you can see now that the girl is dressed similarly as well. She's wearing a deep green leather jacket with an enamel pin of a bouquet of flowers on the lapel, and like a tee, jeans, and boots, all in green and brown. And she's carrying a staff in one hand. To recap, she says, and she's looking down at January, and she's smiling, not in spite of herself, but kind of just like, yeah, that's sometimes it'd be like that. And she says, you, my darling daughter, not only miss curfew, but arrived home pursued by a pack of wolves and a pack of strangers, and are incredibly grounded along with your brother. By the way, January, you really got to stop asking all this to lie for you. It's been, you know I can't lie for shite. But I'm glad to see you in one piece, and once we get this all ironed out, I want you to tell me all about it. Right? Okay, now, strangers, hello. What in the name of Christ and all of his angels are you doing in my woods?
I look at Seraphine for a vibe check.
We're on a mission from God. I don't say that.
I do say that.
Well, did he really?
Did he?
Okay. Do you care to expound on what the fuck that means?
We're just here to get some stuff for a guy and then get the fuck out.
Some stuff for a guy. Right.
Seraphine kind of nudges Aubergine like, don't swear at somebody's mom.
Help me out here. What is it that you're looking for? Why would you come all the way out here and stay? What?
Sequoia bark?
Okay.
In Resurrection Moss. Do you know what it is?
Roll insight for me.
Everybody or just
Everybody.
Seraphine?
Oh, that's a 6.
I don't know
Excuse me.
what
Yeah,
that
it's
was.
a
That fell out of
6.
my hand.
Okay.
16?
10?
16. And on a 16 CB, she not only knows what it is, she's surprised that you know what it is. She's surprised that anyone knows what it is. She says nothing. But you see a quick note of just like, before she focuses back in on the conversation, looks at January and Koya Bark, Resurrection Moss. Would the third thing that you need happen to be redwood bark?
Absolutely. How did you know?
We shouldn't have this conversation here. I spoke rashly before. I said my woods. I can't take all the credit. I should have said our woods. And as she says this, her eyes drift like blue beacons to the tree boughs, which, despite their enormity of size, part without a sound, and dispense 5 more people from every direction, all dressed in natural colors that blend in against the scenery and descending via an assortment of repelling lines. And a final figure emerges from the trunk of a different tree in a haze of green light.
I have a flashback to the bombshells and the cul-de-sac. Is this? I just turn to look at Aubergine. Is this going to keep happening?
So
I just gonna, yeah, this is a thing for us now. This is a thing.
There are people everywhere.
okay,
Okay.
for a musical they start singing, but this isn't real life.
As they start to approach, the woman says, apologize for not rolling out the welcome wagon last night. It's not like we often get folks wandering in, and we wanted to get the make of you before we set to shaking hands and kissing babies. I'm Petrie. You've already met our daughter, January. That's B. And she gestures to like a slight, dirty blonde woman with a really gentle smile and flowers woven into her hair. That's Birdie. The face of the figure who emerged from the tree comes into focus as the light behind them fades, revealing a Latinx woman with goddess locks like Dinah's in a dark brown work jumpsuit. Her face is covered in dirt and grease, and she's not smiling, but she's not hostile either. She's kind of got a resting bitch face. That is Micah. She points to a man with golden brown hair and eyes, who's wearing like a bomber jacket with shearling lining in the collar. And he almost completely eats shit jumping off the light staircase to the ground. He very barely catches himself. And Red Riding Hood over there is our son and January's brother, August. Bringing up the rear is a boy in a red hoodie, very obviously the youngest. Their son, August, is the only one not wearing colors that camouflage easily. He looks exactly like January, but with short, unstyled brown hair, hazel eyes, black jeans, and docks. And of course, he's got that right red hoodie on. So you've got Petrie, Bee, Birdie, Micah, August, and January. Bears are a bus, but only they can prevent forest fires, so you'll have to excuse them for missing the introductions. We're the Blight Brigade. I hate to pry, but you all are?
We need a name. We don't have a name. They have a name. They got a little
I'm circuit board.
Okay.
We're the Marauders.
My name is Seraphine St. Marie now.
Seraphine. Pretty name.
Thank you, ma'am.
And she turns to look at you. Are you planning on giving me a fake name, or just out of curiosity? That's fine. But I think you could do better than the Marauders.
My fake name, which is also my real name, is Aubergine. You want the name that Jesus gave me, you have to buy me dinner first.
We'll talk.
CB just
Anyway.
recognizes that Aubergine clearly has another. Is never.
And Petrie smiles and says, actually, I was quite a fan of you back in the day. They're all kind of in a half circle around you, and everyone is chill. They're more just trying to find out what the fuck is going on. And Petrie says, if I were you, I'd shoot the man who consigned you for this upon your return. I'm sure somebody somewhere thinks he's a nice boy, but either he knew how dangerous the forest potentially was and sent you anyway because you were expendable, or he sent you here with nary a thought toward any potential hazards, and he's stupid or greedy or both. I imagine it's awfully hard to see past all the dollar signs, though, so I shouldn't be so judgmental. It's possible there's a third option, which is that he believed, as you did, which is that this forest was empty. And to be fair, that's the way we prefer it while we work. But you should know that everything that's been presented to the Bureau suggesting a potential recovery of lost areas and biomes has been met with silence. They have so little interest in restoring the world to even a fraction of its former grace that I've no doubt they'd raise this forest from here to Whiskey Town if they knew anyone was here, let alone doing the work we're doing. Self-sustaining communities are the natural enemies of power differentials in the dominant paradigm. That being said, we've taken to using a phrase in this forest that I think applies to your unique situation. What she says is, fronte, brachipedium, atergolupi. And the boy in the red sweater goes, Mom, what are the odds you know the translation of whatever you just said? Like, just for those of us who didn't take Latin in college or go to any municipally funded schools in our young lives? Mom, got it. Instead of answering, Petrie turns her head a little bit to the side and says, January. And immediately, January says, a precipice in front, wolves. Very
That's your sister.
I say that only to say that it sounds like you're in an impossible situation, and we've had our fair share of those for ourselves. So at the very least, I think the benefit of the doubt is warranted. At the very least, you've likely had the scare of your lives, and some of you are looking quite pale and quite tired. You'll be safe here. Well fed, and if we can all agree not to kill each other in the night, perhaps you can see about getting you those ingredients in the morning. The pack will run until about 30 minutes until dawn, until which point I'm afraid you're pinned down with us anyway. Are any of you hurt?
No.
Good. Let's get some food in you. You people look like you haven't had a good meal in a while. Micah, darling. And the man with the kind of golden hair, who, by the way, just for those of you watching at home, I based off of Matthew Gray Googler, just so you have that image in your head for the rest of the
Got
time.
it.
He says, oh, yes. She grins, all teeth, and says, here's the wolf meat we have in cold storage, won't you? And he smiles and says, sure, I think I can do that. The stairs of light wait for you. There's one about 6 inches off the ground. It's the lowest one. And Petrie nods and turns and begins to head up the staircase. Do you follow?
I want to do an Arcana check, please.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
I'll roll Arcana.
Please do,
Okay.
because I rolled a 7 that was a natural 2.
8.
Yeah, I will give you this much on an 8 and a 7. Whatever it is
Oh, that was
is not at
that
all.
was a nat 20.
What?
Before you and Abe shipped out, let's go to the movie. Abe turns and looks at you and looks at the stairs. And he kind of pauses for a second. Like, Abe is not a stupid man, but he's not a college educated person. So he's trying to figure out how to articulate what he wants to say. And he ends up just pointing at the stairs and says, "Do you remember that movie we saw? Like the last movie we saw? The last movie that you saw was The Matrix in theaters."
Yes,
And
remember
in
the
The
last
Matrix,
video
you remember, and Abe remembers in the same moment, that they had mechanized bugs and small creatures that could move through small places. The word nanomite comes to mind. Petrie, she's maybe a quarter of the way up the tree trunk, and you're all kind of in a long carousel line that's slowly spiraling up to the top of the tree. Before you guys start to climb the staircase, Petrie walks up to the actual tree and plants her hands on it and just kind of rests her forehead against the trunk for a moment like she's greeting a friend. When she steps back, she nods, and Birdie, the woman that came out of the tree earlier, rolls her eyes and kind of just waves her hand, at which point pinpricks of light start to appear. You watch as the bits of light form into the stairs that you are now taking. As you walk, the stairs disappear slowly behind you. When you get on the steps, they're sturdier than you expected. There's this weird feeling of weightlessness or being suspended somehow, but it holds steady in the air like it's always been there. There's no shaking or shifting. Up ahead, you hear members of the brigade chatting something about a bone orchard and a menagerie and scheduled burns, but they don't seem super fazed by the events of the night. When you get to the top of the staircase, you can kind of start to see why. Hidden here, in these boughs high above prying eyes, there is a mansion-sized treehouse. Constructed from wood and creeping moss. Little bits of light are everywhere, and the leaves are so dense that they prevent very much of the light from sort of breaking out of the canopy. It's comforting. Everything's got this kind of warm glow. When you get to the top of the stairs, maybe 20 feet away, down a walkway that's made of like a similar wood as the platform that you exit onto, you find guardrails made of light as you walk across the walkway. Petrie approaches the door at the head of the group, and it swings open of its own volition, welcoming you inside. You are all welcome to roll whatever checks you'd like as you step inside.
I'm gonna roll inside.
Okay.
I got a 9.
Okay.
I rolled perception and I got an 8.
Okay.
This treehouse is cooler than the treehouse you had growing up. Sorry.
How dare you?
Sorry.
How dare you talk about the clubhouse like that? All the good times we have in the clubhouse, and this is how you're gonna do it?
I love the little folk.
I'm telling my mother.
This is like the coolest.
Abe rolled a 5, so Abe doesn't fucking know either. But I can tell you, the players, what you see as you enter.
I rolled Arcana and I got 6.
Okay, you can determine that although Birdie is not the source of the tech that you see, she is a major conductor for it, and probably the one maintaining it at the very least. The tech appears to be tied to the motes of light. You also notice there are no electrical appliances. Yeah.
By like modes of light, are you talking like bioluminescence, like running through the trees, and that's the light you're talking about? Like
More like
veins?
fireflies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That are just.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's more
okay.
like you're standing in like a big firefly grove.
Okay. Tiny robots.
The interior of the house is more like a lodge or a hotel with a large central well with adjacent rooms and hallways and a 2-story balcony that wraps around the perimeter. The walls, the banisters at the staircases on the east and west sides of the room, a lot of furniture in the room. It's covered with these snaking vines of ivy, but you also see that all the structural supports are shored up with branches, some of them whipcord thin and some of them as thick as 2 inches in diameter. The furniture is all slightly roughly hewn. It very clearly shows the mark of hand make, but it appears to have been made by somebody relatively skilled. It's newer than the furniture you saw in the visitor center. You don't see the same signs of warping, age, and exposure that you saw there, none of the bleaching, color, or water stains. In the center of the room, there's a long, plainly appointed wooden banquet table with 10 or 12 chairs seated around it at even intervals. And though that's clearly the purpose it was meant to serve, you see that the negative space amongst the place settings of plate, bowl, silverware, and cup has been filled with notebooks, botany textbooks and journals, paperback novels, laptops, and cell phones that aren't plugged into anything, hunting equipment, potted plants with cones hanging from them. There's a half-erased chore wheel at the head of the table. It's very clear that as much living is done here at this table as eating. Michael files in behind you, and the door kind of whispers shut behind him. He cuts off from the pack and heads into the kitchen, where you peek in and see a lot of tools, counter, cooktop, and a range, but again, no appliances and nothing that works off of electricity. That's not to say that there's no light. Everywhere you look, those like firefly bits of light are stuck to the organic materials in the room. And Seraphine, it does remind you of standing in your backyard at night teaching Dinah to catch fireflies. Please, come sit down. Before Micah gets going in the kitchen, are any of you vegetarian, vegan, any allergies, anything like that?
Lactose intolerant.
No milk. Okay, make yourselves comfortable. The food shouldn't be too. Dinah,
Not real food.
real food.
Okay, I'll leave when I see it. I don't think that's a thing.
Dinah gets up and like shrugs out of her backpack and her shotgun, puts them on the floor next to you, and shoots finger guns at you, or just walks into the kitchen.
Where are you going?
I'll be right back.
Where are you going?
Don't worry about it.
Weird things.
Where are
You
you going?
hear the sound of running water, soft speech, and then laughter. When Dinah comes back, she's got an apron around her waist, and her hands are half dried and still kind of wet, and she says, "I want to help Micah out in the kitchen. It seems the least I could do for all the hospitality, and also, I've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 34 times, so I'd like to make sure that we're not eating people or about to be people that are eaten. You ain't got to get ready to stay ready," is basically what I'm saying. Anyway, you shouldn't leave Kimberly in the pocket all day. You gotta let her see the sights since you came along for the trip with you, don't you think? You feel a strange, like, tugging sensation in your navel, just a quick pulse, like a spot of low heat that flares up for a second or two in a way that's not unpleasant, and she sidles off into the kitchen with a placid smile, leaving the three of you and Abe alone in this wide and comfortable hall filled with people. Is there anything that you want to talk about, any questions you want to ask, or checks you want to make while you wait for dinner?
Aubrey wants to do two things. First of all, she wants to look at CB and say, all the weird things we've experienced. Weird food is the one you get caught up on? Really? Real food? And then I want to look at Seraphine and say, hey, can I see her for a second?
No.
Can I just do a religion check regardless then?
Mhm.
15.
Roll insight for me also.
9.
Based on what you know of Seraphine so far, and based on the interactions between her and Dinah, you don't think that it's technology. You think maybe this is something that is specific to Seraphine and Dinah. You think if this doll does do things, if it does blink or wink or whatever Seraphine said, it's
Hey, that was
entirely
rude.
possible that it only does it for her because it's only supposed to.
Mm.
Can I ask Dinah about girl, this man over here?
Yeah, you want to go in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Dinah's in the kitchen, and
And someone's in the kitchen with her.
Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. You notice that she is gently humming that to herself while she's like peeling wild potatoes, and she turns around and says, "Hey,
It's been bugging me. So, when did you leave to come find me?
let's see, 2014, early 2011,
Okay, and how old were you?
a little over 18.
Okay, and how did did she tell you where to find me?
Maybe she had an idea.
That's not the answers that I want to hear.
I know." Dinah sets aside what she's chopping, and she says, "Well, you remember I lost her in the backyard when I was little.
Yeah.
A few weeks after you and Abe shipped out, I was sitting in the backyard. I was actually I think I was trying to catch fireflies. And And I had this weird feeling. I just kind of wandered around in like the woods behind the house. And I remembered I didn't lose her. I buried her to keep her safe.
What?
I don't know. I was 6.
Okay.
BD probably told me to do it. Anyway, I found her. And I guess I felt bad that you didn't have her to take with you. So I thought I'd bring her home.
Eyes are glowing and we're screaming. If we're on the ground.
Can I ask you a question?
Whether I say yes or not, you're still gonna ask.
Of course I am. You believe in something that you can't see that is all powerful. Why is it so hard to believe that Kimberly is special?
It's a toy.
So,
Nobody believed me when I said our eyes were glowing.
I believed you.
Why
She's
the fuck
not-
didn't you back me up?
Because she's not for anybody else. I brought her to you. She's here to keep you safe. She don't know these other people. I'm not always going to be able to come on vacation with you when you need somebody. It's a very bad vacation that we're on, but I am here.
It's not a vacation.
I'm a very supportive sister on this bad vacation that you took me on.
It's not a vacation.
I'm working. I'm making a meal on my vacation.
I could have left you home.
I mean, there are no wolves at home. You know what? Go. Get out of here. Go sit down. Take her with you.
Wow, rude.
Go.
Fine.
I will see you at dinner. Just do some thinking, do some soul searching. You'll figure it out. You'll get it. I believe in you. You bring her very, very close to your head. She does 1 bludgeoning damage as she headbutts you in the cheek.
I love that there's a character sheet for this Power Ranger doll.
I just got
Anything to
sucked
add
up.
to that?
I just got stuck up one time by Power Ranger. I'll put you in the fucking pocket again, Kimberly.
She winks at you. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to take care
I
of?
want to ask Petrie about the sequoia bark, the other thing we need, and the stuff that the marshmallow, all that stuff.
Okay.
All the things we're looking for.
You go up to Petrie, and she is sitting at the head of this big table. In front of her, there's a laptop. There's that chore wheel that I mentioned. There are a couple of journals, and there are stacks and stacks of notebooks. There's one on the floor by the chair, and there's one that kind of towers up next to her on the right side. And they're all thick, and the pages are kind of ruffled, like they've been handled. She's going through one of them when you walk up. She says, "Oh, Miss James, what can I do for you?"
We're here on a mission. We're looking for sequoia bark and
The resurrection moss and
Ross and some marshmallow something.
how
Marshmallow.
important to you is the person that you're trying to help? I don't mean to pry. It's just some of these ingredients are going to be difficult to get.
And
Here's the
I'm there
thing.
for this conversation too, right?
Yeah, you've come back from the kitchen.
The person that
You're there.
I'm trying to help. If they're on fire, I would be quick to put them out. However,
I know. I don't
They
mean the
can
person
do
who sent you
things.
here. I meant the person the drug is for.
I would do anything for this person.
Okay. She kind of like thinks to herself, I wish Elsewhere was here because sequoia bark you'll want to get from one of the ones in the Mariposa Grove. That's where we are. His tree, our home, is General Sherman. You can call him the General. The healthier, the better, and the higher up the trunk, the better. That you can do at any time, really. The resurrection moss is what will be the problem. I can take you to it, but it's not in this forest. How soon do you need to be back?
The next. What day are we on?
You are on day 2 right now.
By the end of the week.
Yeah, by the end of the week.
Okay. Then we'd better go to bed early tonight. We can get the giant sequoia bark on the way out. The resurrection moss only grows in one place in California. It's a place called Whiskey Town. It's far, far north, just below the border of Oregon. The trip can be made in a reasonable amount of time. I know that you drove car in here. That would certainly help. But it is about 6 hours north of where we are. We can hike it, and some places we'll have to, but we patrol all of the national parks. But this is our domain. I can't speak for the other forests.
Stay full of feet and retrieve the car.
And she grins and says, August, darling.
Seeker's like very aware that there's kids his age here and is just trying to keep the
He kind of trots up. There's something very bouncy about him. There's something very like excited and ready to go. And he's kind of just, yeah. He says, I would like you, not now because it's dark and there are wolves. Morning. I would like you to escort circuit boards. Go pick up their car with the others. You'll keep them safe, won't you? Of course I will.
Wait, this one knows how to drive, right? Because I don't trust this in my car.
Of course I know how to drive.
Okay, good.
I don't go to school, so they teach me real things.
Okay, cool.
Can Circuit also like assume like he can operate a car because he builds them?
CB builds the computer system for cars.
Okay. And then my other question: can I gauge how old August is?
August is younger than you.
So, but older than Gash. So around
He's
the
Gash's
same-
age.
Gash's age. Got it. Okay.
January is a little bit older.
So like 16, you said, right?
Mhm. So August nods and kind of goes over to January, and it's like looking at two versions of the same image. They're kind of like pressed temple to temple while he talks, and you can tell without an insight check that these two children are insanely close. And true to Dinah's word, it's not terribly long before CB, the smell hits your nose and tickles at something long dormant in the back of your brain. It's something that you can't quite put your finger on at first. But Seraphine and Aubergine, you smell something you haven't smelled in at least a decade. The swirl of spices and heat and whatever secret magic happens in the kitchen is unmistakable. That's food cooking, real food. Over the course of about 2 hours, as you talk to Petrie and she kind of finds out what herbs you're looking for and starts going through some of the notebooks to look at her own notes, the smell permeates the entirety of the treehouse. And it kind of wraps itself around you in a shroud of memory that gets stronger and thicker until it's formed a cocoon of sleepy, easy comfort around you. And just as Micah and Dinah poke their heads out of the kitchen to let you know that the meal is ready and they'll be bringing it out, the door that you all initially entered through swings open with a gust of cool air that carries in the sound of footsteps and laughter. And ultimately, another 5 individuals to add to those that are already here, 3 of whom who are covered from head to toe in soot and ash. And I would like to bring in our second guest now.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. This is Bree, and you're gonna meet who Bree is in just a second here. All of the people who have come into the house kind of stop short when they see the 5 of you, or the 4 of you, since Dinah's in the kitchen. You notice that the largest of them, who's this grizzled, like Samoan or maybe indigenous man, he is built like a brick shithouse. He's at least 6'6", probably 280 pounds, carrying half his weight in hunting equipment and weaponry. He's wearing all brown leather, and he's handsome in that like hyper masculine, hyper capable way. He immediately searches the room after his eyes kind of register your presence and settle on Petrie at the head of the table, and he says, I guess we know what all the fires were about then. Petrie laughs, and she says, the good Dr. Ballard heard there was fresh meat in the park and set the wolves on them, and they are having a shite day before that development, so I figured the least we could do is get some food in them. This is Abernathy, Aubergine, CB, Seraphine, and Dinah is in the kitchen. You lot, this is September, referring to the large man who kind of like grins ruefully, and he starts like getting out of his equipment and heading toward the table with the rest of the group like he's just got to hear this shit.
As he's doing that, I just start humming.
She points to the woman after him and says, and that's Ford, who is a young indigenous woman with short dark hair that falls in big loose curls around like a kind of square face that's just littered with freckles, who smiles easily at you all and gives a short wave but doesn't say anything before heading to her own place at the table between Birdie and September. This is Elsewhere, who is a slender and dark-eyed man with some pretty substantial scarring on his face, even under all the soot. He could be Micah's brother, except that he wears the slightness of his frame with confidence. He takes up his own space and a little extra and moves with kind of a surprising grace, actually. That's Atlas, who is a dark-skinned black man with a just crisp-ass fade, who's probably no taller than Seraphine. He's nursing some second and third degree burns, but he looks pretty cheerful, all things considered. And he is turned around backward and talking to the person in the rear. And Petrie says, and that's Forsythia. Forsythia, Would you please describe yourself for us and how you feel about all of these strangers in your super secret treehouse mansion?
Strangers in my treehouse, but they've had a shite day. I've been there before. I'm 5'6". I have a long mane of like 3B/2A combined hair with one braid on either side of my face with some beads at the end of those braids. I walk in humming to myself. If your dream is shattered, pick up the glass. Don't let your head keep running.
So fucking cool. I wish I had a fan to like flap open and fan myself. This character's cool as shit. Okay, so for Cynthia, as you fully come into the room and put down all of your stuff but your soil sample canister, Petrie's waiting calmly for you at the head of the table. She's never been the type to rush you, especially knowing how dangerous what you and Atlas and elsewhere do, but she does raise an eyebrow at the three of you, stand, and leave the room. She comes back from one of the hallways with a massive first aid kit that the controlled burn team in particular is extremely familiar with. Jesus.
Okay, it's our little buddy. It's our little pack. Come here, little burn pack.
Did you stick your face in the fire?
Oh no, I'm just trying a new look. Charcoal is good. It's good for your skin. You know that.
It is a good look for you. But you're up first. You come sit and tell me what you found out there, and I'll take care of this before you catch some kind of flesh-eating parasite. Sound fair?
Seraphine
That
kind of
sounds
agrees, even
wonderful.
She's just kind of like, I don't think I'm that gangster.
Elsewhere, you're on deck. In the meantime, get Atlas patched up for me. August, hands, wash them now, and then I want you to relieve Micah and set the table. January, dear heart, put the whetstone down and come eat. If it makes you feel more productive, you can listen in, but otherwise no more work tonight. And for Cynthia, Petrie is going to roll a medicine check and start attending to your burns while Elsewhere works on Atlas. And then I'm going to ask the party to roll insight on your hosts.
19. Well, fuck me,
15.
right? I gotta say.
Okay.
Kitchen for that.
Damn. Even with the lower rolls, you all see different things, I think. I don't think you're looking for anything in particular. This is just kind of like passive observation. Seraphine, you see that January has kind of guiltily frozen with a whetstone and a huge buck knife in her hands. And I think it occurs to you that you have not seen the kid sit still since you got here. At some point, she set her bow aside, only to like unroll a big sheath of weapons and what look like handmade arrowheads that she's been like methodically sharpening for the last 2.5 hours. Even looking at her now, there's a readiness to her, something in the set of her shoulders and the regularity with which her eyes seek out her younger brother in the room. They are intimately familiar to you as both an older sibling and a warrior. And I think in this moment, you know something made this kid grow up extremely fast. And looking around, she and August don't look like anyone else in the room. And you remember Petrie saying, our daughter, not mine. TV, I think your attention is probably drawn to Birdie, who is pulsating with energy still. She's sitting cross-legged at the table in her chair, and she's got an assortment of just infinitesimally small parts scattered in front of her. She made no move to do anything about the grease on her face and hands. I think she reminds you of Desta a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking that. She's their hacker. I don't want to talk to her.
She's super focused on her work. If she's listening at all, it's only ever incidentally. She's maybe a little bit less posh than Desta is, but just as beautiful, and you suspect just as capable.
At one same age too?
Roughly. Actually, you think she might be older.
Older than Desta?
All of these people look like they are probably a little bit older than Seraphine and Aubergine.
Birdie's a member of the Blight Brigade, not the Burn.
The burn team, it's
Like,
just
like
3
an
people.
arm of that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You watch as she lifts a hand and kind of makes a beckoning motion into the open air without looking up, and 10 or 20 of the little firefly lights flutter down and hover around her face and glow just a little bit brighter, giving her more light as she leans to work on something delicate. Aubergine, as Forsythia passes Atlas to sit in August's vacant chair, you clock Atlas's hand kind of just gently brush the small of her back. And it's in that moment that you realize both Atlas and Forsythia are wearing a thick bronze-colored band on their left hand. Forsythia, you feel the tips of Atlas' fingers across the dip of your spine, a habit he probably develops working in lab settings with you, and you don't have to look at him to know that he's smiling at you. Do you do anything in response?
I smile back and just go,
It affects him. He is visibly affected by you. Aubergine, you watch this exchange, and I want to ask you, did you and your partner ever talk about marriage in the old days?
Oh yeah,
Was that something that was part of the plan for you?
we were gonna go to Vegas.
You've been on your own for years now, and that weird police boy did ask you out yesterday. Does watching them together bring back any memories for you or kind of any revelations for you?
So my partner we grew up together in Monroeville, and he was also my guitar tech when I was on tour.
Nice.
And so it very much reminds me of like being on stage and him handing me a guitar, but then like taking like extra long like rub my hand.
That's so sweet. That's so nice. So you're thinking about that, and it's one of the first times in a few days where you thought about the past and it wasn't painful. It was just like, yeah, that is a nice memory. I'm glad that I still have that. So the three of you kind of sit there with your thoughts, observing the group, and Petrie dons a set of gloves and says to Forsythia, I know the burns were off schedule, and I know it was the pack. What I challenge you to do, Sith, is tell me something I don't know. Is anyone hurt? Besides you three daredevils, anyway. Is the bone orchard intact? The granaries?
Yeah, everything's all right. Everything's all right. It's just, ugh, now we gotta plant that soil now instead of when we planned in the fall. Otherwise, they're not gonna be used to the flame cycle.
Okay. In the morning, do me a favor and get with B, and we will start fucking floating the plant early.
Ugh, I hate
Remind
this.
me to just punch Alice right in her throat the next time. Just right in the windpipe.
Family, you and me both.
Are you talking about Dr. Alice Ballard?
I'm talking about Alice Ballard. Dr. Alice Ballard lost her license.
Should have lost more, in my
Can
opinion.
I pull up the images I took of,
Mhm.
of like the stuff we found in the information
Yeah, absolutely.
and show it to them?
Peachy looks at it. You notice elsewhere is silent and furious as talk shifts to Alice Ballard. Very quickly, I do want to point out there's a faint skittering from somewhere up above you that speeds closer and closer to the table. There's a few thumps as something that nobody can see yet bumps into some chair legs. It's jumped over by August, who doesn't lose any of the place that he's holding. And then the thing slams into the table that you're at and comes skittering up the leg it collided with. When you finally do see it, it's making a beeline for Forsythia, and it is a ladybug approximately the size of a tarantula.
That's fucking horrifying.
Amazing!
It is-
Come here, lady.
It is chirping pleasantly when it finally goes careening off the edge of the table and just lands squarely in Forsythia's lap.
That's
I
my
want to check
girl.
for it.
Go
I've
ahead.
never seen a ladybug
I
that
want
big.
to do a check.
Seraphine is just staring in horror. She's touching Abe's arm like, do you see this
Yeah, I
fucking
knew this was
13.
going to be bad for you.
do you see this
13.
fucking thing?
I got a 12 because I did perception.
And okay, you did perception, I did a 13 arcana.
It's not magical. There's no tech.
It's so cute.
You can also ask. Dinah kind of looks at the two, like you guys kind of like conferring about the ladybug and says, excuse me, Forsythia, why the fuck is your ladybug so big? Not that I mind. I'm just curious.
Well, now, strictly speaking, that is a question for God. But I think
Best
It's
answer
probably-
to any question I've ever heard.
my hypothesis is that the radiation, all the fallout must have affected her little DNA and caused Lady to overdevelop into this form. But I
Is it
love it
possible?
because I have never been able to cuddle a better companion personally.
Lady kind of like wiggles in your grasp and is just very happy to be there.
I need a ladybug, like a lady.
I want
like,
a stuffed
sticker.
lady now very
Right?
badly.
Oh my god.
I forgot about the fact that Forsythia has a familiar until last night, and I wrote that intro in last night specifically because I love this ladybug. very
I
much.
love this familiar so much.
My grandmama always said that ladybugs were good luck. So I figure more ladybug, more luck.
Dinah has come out of the kitchen double fisting bottles of red wine, which she sets on the table and then says, "Can I pet your giant bug? Would that be okay?"
If she will allow. She's usually quite friendly though.
Dinah reaches out and puts her hand close enough for Lady to sniff, And it's, I don't. What do ladybugs do? Stuff? Do they bite? I don't.
Lady's like doing her little antenna on Diana's hand.
I like what you're doing with these. I think that's pretty cool. You're the greatest thing I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. Just so you know. I'm gonna assume that you speak English too. I don't know if that's true, but you look like you'd be a smart bug. Thank you for letting. Thank you.
I haven't taken any drugs today, right? Like, I didn't.
Oh, it's real. It's real.
That's happening.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's happening. Go ahead.
Wait, Douglas, do you see this?
Dinah immediately starts heading towards you. I'm gonna need you to make a dex saving throw.
Oh, where'd it go? Oh shit, it's a 6.
Dinah rolled a 17, so she just wipes her gross bug hand all over your sleeve
Amazing.
and then calmly sits down next to you.
2 things. 1, can I just text Gash?
The last thing that you send is a picture of precisely his hands holding lady.
Yeah.
And you get back, you know, God made a flood once to get rid of all of us. And I'm beginning to think that he should again. Stay safe out there, friend.
I love my no context updates with Gash. It makes me really happy. I would like to approach Birdie and
Okay.
talk to her about her tag.
Okay, while you're going up to talk to Birdie, Micah and August and Dinah do finish setting the table. The inhabitants of the treehouse, they shuffle but don't remove a lot of things that are already present there on the table to make room for the cookware. Fire team's all patched up, and all 16 of you are seated around the table. Micah uncovers an enormous cast iron pot, and inside there is a stew, steaming with hunks of meat and vibrantly colored vegetables in it. There's a salad of wild lilies and meadow greens, fresh fruit and honey, good thick crusted bread that's only a day or two past stale, red wine, fresh water, just heaps of food on the table. And Petrie says, please, eat and drink your fill. I know you've got a mission to commence with, and we'll help you, as I said, but there's more than enough a few times over, and there's nothing we can do until morning anyway. Why don't you try to enjoy yourself?
Can I do a history check
Mhm.
on the food?
Yeah.
I got
Okay. On a history check,
just to see if it triggers any memories from when I was little.
you don't necessarily recognize the items on the table, but you're almost kind of superimposed on a very, very young version of yourself sitting at a table, and it's set up similar.
For all 4 of us.
Yeah, for all 4 of you, it's the same. You know, every place has been set. The table is laden with food. Leah is in her high chair next to you, and you can't see your parents' faces.
Okay.
It's like every time you look at them, they're just turning or they're just out of view,
Got it.
where you just can't quite get a beat on them. Petrie has been watching your faces, and she can see kind of like the poorly hidden hunger that's on them. Like, you've been eating, but not. You've been eating, like, basically, you've been eating fucking horse glue. You don't know where the fucking neon bars come from. You know that they're nutritious and good for you, but they're not food. All she does is smile warmly at you and take a big bite of her own stew. Before Petrie continues her sentence, you wanted to talk to Birdie. So we'll say that at dinner, now that Petrie has eaten, everyone else starts to eat. I think probably for Scythia, Lady tries very hard to get into your bowl. She doesn't even really want stew. She just wants to be involved. So I think throughout dinner, you're casually just like scooting her to the side and eating with the other hand.
Lady, you know better. Get down
like
from
you
there.
push her away and she skitters on back. And so it's that the entire time you're eating the bowl of stew.
I love her.
I load up my plate, take a big bite, and look at Dinah and go, good soup.
Thanks, homie. Much appreciated. Dinah is macking on the stew. Like, you're confident there's no fucking poison in this because Dinah would be dead by now. She's halfway through her fucking bowl already. No shame. Just shoveling. Like someone's gonna take the fucking bowl from her. It's Seraphine, these are not the manners that your mother taught her. You're fucking mortified.
What is the matter with you?
I'm sorry. Did you not see that there's meat on the table? Why are you not excited about this?
Why are you acting like you don't have home training?
I do have home training. You know what? I don't have food. And she goes back to eat it. Do you walk up to Birdie or try to talk to her from across the table?
Can I sit next to her at the table?
She is currently sitting between 2 people.
Okay.
So you would either need to walk up to her or kind of lean forward and try to talk across the table.
Okay. I think I think Zeke is very overwhelmed by the food, and so he takes just a very small bit of everything because he knows that this is gonna freak him out. He's very skittish. So he's like taking little bits of food.
She rolled pretty well on her insight. I think Dinah can see kind of like the note of faint panic on your face at just being overloaded. So Dinah actually takes the plate from you and starts to load it up for you with things that she thinks that you'll like. And then she just puts the plate back in front of you. She doesn't say anything. She just kind of smiles and puts it back down in front of you to kind of just take the burden of choice from you. There's a little bit of everything, but you notice that there is more, like, there's more bread and there's more fruit and honey for you than are on the plates for the other people. With your plate of food, how do you want to approach Birdie?
I think I want Rivet to go up to her, like, pat her on the leg, and then, like make it very clear that Rivet is mine, and I'm trying to get her attention.
Lady immediately tries to follow.
Lady and Rivet! Oh, so for Bree, Rivet is my familiar, who's like a brass steampunk robot dog.
So there's just like a little Toy Story train.
Very slinky, but without the slinky.
Lady realizes that you're going to Birdie and turns around and goes back to Persithia. Lady's just like, I'm good, and just kind of skitters back to Mom.
I love that everybody's so afraid of the femme hackers. That's amazing.
Birdie, her expression does not change at all. She puts her tools down and looks right at you.
I sheepishly wave and like half smile, and I'm just trying to be like really polite.
You lose something?
So that's Rivet. Made him. He thinks you're rad. I wanted to ask you about your friends. They're amazing.
Birdie kind of just stares at you for a second, and you notice that Lore actually reaches over, and she doesn't touch her, she kind of just shoulders her. Birdie, she reaches down, she scoops Rivet up, she sets him on the table next to her parts, and kind of eyeballs him. You do good work.
Thank you.
Go on home now. She kind of just like pats him on the ass to send him walking back down the table around the plates.
She licks her hand.
My friends are nanomites.
She got the Power Ranger so she can take it beyond. She sees that big ass bug, and then we have a short conversation.
Are you holding on to her, or is she sitting on the table?
I'm holding on to her right now because we're talking.
Okay, good. Because if you weren't holding on to her, she was probably going to go try and headbutt the bug. So.
No, I was telling her to keep the bug away from me with her little whip here. Because I don't want the thing anywhere near me, but I have a feeling she's going to end up riding it.
You just gave ideas. You shouldn't have done that.
What a time to be alive. The possibilities. Oh, okay. I think I just caught the spirit. That was incredible. So the Pink Ranger, her eyes are fully lit now. And
Did everyone see that her eyes are lit?
You can see it.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's
You were
impressive.
kidding.
And now that you all have seen her and acknowledged that you have seen her, she hops down out of Seraphine's hand, stands up, and then she sits down on the edge of Seraphine's plate and swings her little feet.
And you guys are sure I didn't take any drugs today, right?
If you did, I did. Because I'm saying it.
Aubergine, I think having been a performer and having spent time with some very strange people, and based on your insight check earlier, I think you know that there are types of joy and types of memory that are their own kind of magic that don't necessarily obey the same rules as everything else. You don't think that this is something that could be reproduced. Birdie looks at Kimberly and just goes, I was always a fan of the Yellow Ranger myself. Kimberly was pretty cool, though. Didn't she turn into a bird or some shit?
You're not. I don't know this.
And Birdie actually smiles, and you see she has a beautiful smile, big dimples, because the whole thing is just so fucking absurd that she can't be mad about it.
Yeah.
I think CB is just like, he's never seen Seraphine be like silly and whimsical.
Yeah.
And
She's
so
like, this is
he's-
a weird day. Let's ride
That's my
this.
friend.
He loves, and she just loves it. Can I may I? And like, just kind of do an Arcana check on just one of them to see what I can learn about it.
On a 14, you can look at it. One lands right on the tip of the pointer finger of your metal hand, and you bring it really, really close to your face. And you can see at the very, very, very center of it, like a pinprick, there is something moving. It's almost like a ball of molten silver or mercury that's constantly in motion. And you get the idea that it's out of character because CB wouldn't know this.
Yeah.
It's like how ions bond,
Oh, okay.
just like groupings that get stronger as they make more connections.
Like ants. They
Basically,
go
yeah.
together and okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Like a colony of worker ants, but they have the capability to fly or, you know, kind of manipulate the gravity around them. You are all sitting at the table, and Peter is kind of watching the exchange between you and Birdie with a faint smile on her face. And she looks all over people. She looks at Forsythia, who I imagine you've opened your soil sample canister. Inside, you've got samples of the ashes of the fires that you guys just put out. You've got samples of the soil as it stands right now. And they're all very carefully marked with what quadrant and what time they were taken and all of that good stuff. When Petrie speaks up and says what she says to Lore next, I don't think you're surprised. I think this is a fairly common occurrence in the treehouse. And Petrie says, as a matter of fact, Lore, as it was a wolf day, and therefore a stupid day, would you be so kind as to regale us while we eat, or are you off duty? Lore has not said a single word up to this point. She looks up from where she's serving herself and considers for a moment before setting her spoon in her bowl and digging in the knapsack on the back of her chair. She pulls out a leather-bound book that looks kind of like a Bible. It's thick. It's a very thick book, but you notice that the width is unevenly dispersed. Like there are things tucked between the pages. She sets it down, still having yet to speak, and kind of spider walks her fingers across the cover before she opens it and thumbs through it without looking. You can see Polaroids, newspaper clippings, ticket stubs, pressed flowers, and everywhere you see a tiny, tiny scrawl of brown ink that encroaches on all the other detritus that's been tucked away. Lore finally stops on a page, taps the title at the top, and smiles in a way that almost makes her freckles dance. What do you think? January? August? Should I tell the story of the fairy dance again? In the first real show of adolescence you've seen from her since you met her, January Borden stops what she's doing, stops trying to listen in on the adults, grins, and kind of like shoves August to get his attention. Both of them turn their full attention onto Lore. Birdie pauses in her work long enough to dismiss the lights that are floating around her and just kind of wave them off in either direction. After a moment or two, points of light dim, except for those you need to see the area right in front of you and your meal. And she kind of nods gruffly at Lore, who turns a little red across the bridge of her nose. Lore winks at the two teenagers, gestures for the rest of you to keep eating, and begins. Lore says, in tandem with Petrie, who says it like she knows the story by heart. The following is an old Irish story. One evening in late November, which is the month when spirits have most power over all things, as the prettiest girl on the island was going to the well for water, her foot slipped and she fell. As Lore settles into her chair straight-backed and projecting like she's speaking to a full house, you could swear that you hear the faint sounds of water lapping up against some solid surface underneath the sound of forks and knives and dropping. It was an unlucky omen, and when she got up and looked round, it seemed to her as if she were in a strange place. And all around her was changed as if by enchantment. But at some distance, she saw a great crowd gathered around a blazing fire. The sound of the water fades and is replaced by the slow flicker and pop of the roaring flame, like an echo of something that happened in this forest when it was still young. And she was drawn slowly on towards them, till at last she stood in the very midst of them. But they kept silent, looking fixedly at her, and she was afraid, and tried to turn and leave them, but could not. Then a beautiful youth, like a prince, with a red sash and a golden band on his long yellow hair, came up and asked her to dance. It is a foolish thing of you, sir, to ask me to dance when there is no music. At this, Lore looks expectantly at September, who rolls his eyes, but grins in spite of himself and pushes up out of his chair, rounding past Petrie to bow and hold out a hand to January. She also rolls her eyes, but she looks a little bit pleased as she steps into a waltz position with September, who's a good head and a half taller than she is. They both turn and nod to Lore simultaneously, and she picks up as if she never stopped, and the faint strains of strings start to come in and get a little bit louder the longer that Lore talked. Then he lifted his hand and made a sign to the people, and instantly the sweetest music sounded near her and around her. The young man took her hand, and they danced and danced, and the stars went down. But she seemed like one floating on the air, and she forgot everything except the dancing, sweet low music, and her beautiful. September begins to guide January across the wooden floor into the open area on the far side of the table in a sweeping walk. And she, very light on her feet, takes this direction perfectly. At last, the dancing ceased, and her partner thanked her and invited her to supper with the company. Then she saw an opening in the ground and a flight of steps, and the young man, who seemed to be the king amongst them all, led them down, followed by the whole company. At the end of the stairs, they came upon a large hall, all bright and beautiful with gold and silver and lights, and the table was covered with everything good to eat, and wine was poured out in golden cups for them to drink. When she sat down, they all pressed her to eat the food and drink the wine, and as she was weary after dancing, she took the golden cup the prince handed her and raised it to her lips to drink. Just then, a man passed close to her and whispered. Here, Elsewhere actually speaks up from his spot between Lore and Forsythia, and he's not even looking. He's got a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook that is fucked up. You know those Rectus journals? It looks like one of those. And without looking up, it says, "Eat no food and drink no wine, or you will never reach your home again." So she laid down the cup and refused to drink. On this they were angry, and a great noise arose, and a fierce dark man stood up and said, "Whoever comes to us must drink." He seized her arm and held the wine to her lips so that she almost died of fright. But at that moment, the man came up, and he took her by the hand and led her out. And Elsewhere says, "You are safe for this time. Take this herb and hold it in your hand until you reach home, and no one can harm you." He had given her a branch of ground ivy. The various vines of ivy that drape the windows and the door frame and most other freestanding surfaces flutter as if kind of pushed by a gentle breeze. And you catch Lore grin to herself. Just real small, just real quick. And then she sobers. This took, and she fled away along the sward in the dark night. But all the time she heard footsteps behind her in her sleep. At last she reached home and barred the door and went to bed, and when a great clamor arose outside, voices by the entirety of the Blight Brigade speaks up from memory. "The power we had over you is gone through the magic of the herb, but wait. When you dance again to the music on the hill, you will stay with us forevermore, and none shall harm." However, she kept the magic branch safely, and the fairies never troubled her more. But it was long and long before the sound of the fairy music left her ears, which she had danced to that November night on the hillside with her fairy lover. The end. The story ends, and September ruffles January's hair and kisses her on the crown of her head before he leads her back to her chair and kind of slipping away with a fancy bow. Looking around them, even Birdie is still smiling as Lore closes her book. And she says, "That story is actually Petrie's. I heard her telling it to January and August at bedtime one night and asked if I could stay, and then I asked if I could keep the story. And as they got older, we kind of just telling it." Speaking of which, and she gets very serious all of a sudden. Pop quiz. Not you, January. I know you know. August. What do we know about Ivy?
Ivy the plant.
Hedera helix. Common ivy. Hedera means constancy, but comes from the Celtic word for cord. Evergreen, commonly found on dead and decaying trees and symbolizes immortality. He looks to September and Petrie eagerly for approval, and he gets it in spades. But Petrie does wink at him and say, "And, more important, what have we learned about the fairies? Don't eat or drink their food, don't dance to their music, and Ivy will protect you. In September, it just attaboy kid, excellent recall. So excellent, I think, your moms won't be able to deny you've earned a hunting trip. Right, Petrie? Right? Especially since the wolves try to eat our new friends, right, Mom? September, makes full, grown-ass man makes full puppy eyes at Petrie, and is then joined by August. Petrie thinks for a second and says, fine, stop with the face, fine. There is a condition, though, so focus, please. And September continues to make the face, but does, kind of squares that he's looking directly at her. These folks here need to acquire some particularly rare herbs, and I think that it's their lucky day because we, my darling dear, just so happen to be uniquely qualified to aid them. So, we will all be going on a field trip effective tomorrow morning to aid them on their quest. And if you would like to take our son on a side quest to kill some wolves along the way, our stores could always use more. Any objections, complaints, concerns?
He is listening. He's fascinated by the food, but I don't know.
Pace yourself. You've never had real food.
I'm eating in the smallest bite.
What is CB feeling right now? Because he's been saying, I'll believe it when I see it, I'll believe it when I see it, and they have produced a feast. It's not just that there's some edible organic food. They are living a life of plenty.
All of the food tastes so rich and overwhelming to him, but he can tell it's filling his belly. It feels comforting. It feels like this is what existing is supposed to feel like. But it gets to the point where I think his senses are so overwhelmed that everything just starts tasting the same as he finishes.
Okay. Petrie says, excellent, then it's settled. Let's get our guests settled in for the night, and in the morning we'll work out who's going where and when. It's probably 10 or 11 in the evening now, when all's said and done. The kids finish clearing the plates for the adults to wash, and it's actually the kids that take you to your rooms while the adults remain seated at the table. Anyone who would like to may roll insight on that for me.
Ooh, not gonna be good.
Today is a
That was
rough
a grand
day
total
for
of,
rolls.
yeah, there was a grand total of
Abe's out here rolling fives on his
Six.
nature shit, and I don't appreciate it.
I got a 13.
13. The emotions on the faces of the adults kind of run the gamut from anger to disappointment to resignation, but you don't note any traces of fear among them. Thinking about it, they were not only not surprised by the wolves, they were ready for them. The pack and Dr. Ballard, but never really finished explaining to you or started explaining to you.
Yeah.
August and January lead you to the attic, which is actually an addition that was built onto the original structure. It's more like a cave, and the little room is really cozy. It's got beds of soft moss, and the kids leave and come back with thick wool blankets for each of you. You are easily now a solid 300 feet above the ground. There isn't even a creaking of wood to betray the presence of your weight. And here, where the foliage is the most dense, the draft doesn't cut through like it does on the first floor. Is there anything that anyone wants to attend to before you guys head to bed?
I just want to see if I can determine if they moved into the tree, or if they built it, or if it was already here and they kind of built upon it. Did they find it as a house and then expanded upon it, or did they build it out of the tree themselves?
I'm gonna have you roll just a straight intelligence roll for me.
14.
The structure is not brand new, but it is not endemic to this forest. Somebody built this,
Okay.
and you suspect, just from what you've seen of these people so far and how comfortable they seem to be with the land around them, you suspect that they built it here specifically so that it would grow and become part.
So they found the tree and then built this themselves. Okay, that was cool. Got it.
I don't want to do any checks or anything, but I think that this is the first time that Aubergine has gone to sleep with a full belly and a glass of wine in her system in God knows how long.
I was gonna ask, how are you guys feeling? It's been a wild day.
Yeah.
You have experienced some extremes today.
Remember that episode of The Walking Dead where they get to the bunker with CDC and you want to take showers?
Mhm.
It feels a lot like that. Like, I want to take a shower, wash my hair, do all the things that I would normally do at home, but we've been running all day, and like this is the first time that I get to actually
And I think even though there's no electricity, I think with the nanomites and Birdie, they've worked out some kind of high ass pressure shower system. These people work the land. They work hard. They want a good shower when they come home. So I'm not even gonna make you roll for it. I'm gonna say you all take fantastic shower. Water is hot enough to melt your skin off. The pressure's perfect. Doesn't run out. You do have to take turns, but eventually you are all, hair still damp, in cleaner clothes from your bags. Yeah, Aubergine hasn't had a real meal in a decade at least. Where is she right now?
She's not religious, so she's not praying, but I think that she is having a conversation with Drew and her partner in her head, and is like, today was real fucking weird, my dude.
I think you hear back, and the part of you that worries about radiation sickness always feels some kind of way about hearing an answer.
Yeah.
Because you're not sure if it's a memory or if it's a problem. But you hear Drew's voice say, every day that you've had for the last week and a half has been weird. But not bad. So, right?
Not bad.
I'm glad you have people again.
I don't even respond to that.
Yeah. I think the voice is not expecting you.
Yeah.
And I just say
Seraphine,
also
CV?
for Seraphine, it was nice to have a bunch of people at the table because it felt like being a little kid again, or just being at home. And I kind of looked at Abe, and he was like, it just kind of felt like being at the as we had a big I imagine we just have a big bench style.
Yeah,
So
to fit all of you.
Yeah, dinner for us at the St. Marie house with 11 people.
A fight
Yeah.
every day.
I think CV definitely thinks about the shower, but it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. It's a family situation. Difficult for him, especially after that memory, and not. I hate TV's backstory.
When your own character gets you.
Can't remember because he hasn't. You remember Lydia, and that's hard. He's still not convinced as to what happened to her. I himself from his feelings, from being in his feelings. He knocks on August's door. Which one's the baby?
August. August opens the door before your hand hits the wood. And just, hey, is everything okay upstairs? You guys have enough blankets?
Yeah. No, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at people. I've lived alone most of my life.
I was raised in the woods, so it's probably okay.
So dope. I didn't even know woods existed until today. So, can I ask a potential sensitive question? What?
You can ask.
You're under no obligation to answer. What can you tell me about Alice?
Sobers up pretty quickly. Alice has been here for as long as I can remember. Alice and everybody used to work together.
Everyone downstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
They all worked here in the park.
Oh, so you a botanist? Is that the term?
Yeah, most of them anyway.
Okay.
September was a ranger and a gamekeeper, but everybody worked for the national park system. They worked for a special, an elite team, I guess, called the California Conservation Corps, and their specialty was strife agronomy, which deals with growing stuff when the land is mad at you, I guess. Dr. Alice, she comes around sometimes with her wolves.
She controls the wolf
They're hers.
like her pets.
I don't know if you can call wolves pets, but they listen to her. She brought them here.
She brought them to the forest.
I remember Mom and Patricia being really, really upset because the ecosystem wasn't strong enough. There were a couple of years where we didn't have enough food for all of us because the wolves killed everything. She scares me.
Sounds terrifying. I shall
Yeah, that's right before she went to jail.
to jail. And I heard Petrie mention she worked up for a license as a doctor.
August pulls the door open wide and reveals that January is in the room with him. January kind of pokes her head out, looks at August, and says, August is too little to remember. When the
I'm
wolves came.
sorry. I don't.
It's okay. It's okay. If I were you, I'd want to know what's going on.
I'm from Belmar, and I've been outside in the city, so it's been a lot for me. I appreciate you mentioning.
Yeah, same, kinda. I remember when Alice came. I was 8, maybe? And I remember for the first time I saw Petrie worried. And all of the adults were running around. We didn't have the treehouse yet. We were still living on the ground.
And you said, well, your brother mentioned that your mom and your family worked with Alice, like at the park, so they knew her profession, correct?
You could say that. You probably have to ask them how they feel about Alice. Don't ask for what it's worth. What you do to know about Alice is that she doesn't care who she hurts. That's why she went to jail. She and the pack, it was before, I think August and I were even born. It was before the war. But she and the pack did some kind of demonstration, I think, at a lab where they did some kind of testing on animals. And they set it on fire after they released the animal. But they didn't know that there were people inside.
Whoa. That was me saying that. Sorry.
3 people died, and 2 were seriously injured. She was in and out of court. Mom doesn't like to talk about it a lot. None of them really do. But what I do know is that Mom is the one who wrote the letter that put her in jail, for sure. And it was only after her wolves almost killed elsewhere. That one was on. January, she's like, hold on a second. And you watch as she walks past you and leaves you with August, and August is used to her kind of darting off. She runs downstairs, and she comes back up, not even winded. It's a little bit offensive how not winded she is, actually.
Especially after that shit show of me running through the bush.
She takes an old, extremely wrinkled piece of paper out of her pocket, and she unfolds it and smooths it out in front of you. And I'm gonna send it to chat. What she shows you is a wildlife incident report for the California Conservation Corps, and the document is talking about Alice Ballard and the day that she brought grown endangered gray wolves to the entrance of the Sequoia National Forest, and in an attempt to protect people in the park, Elsewhere was mauled. September was able to get him out and subdue the wolf without killing it, but multiple people went to the hospital with injuries or from asthma attacks. It was chaos in the park, and it was a while, you gather, before Elsewhere recovered. January kind of shrugs and says, "The thing is, I don't even think she hates us. I've met her. My mom liked her once, and there's gotta be a reason. She just wants."
Can I ask, this was before part of it, right?
Mhm.
Stupid question. I know the answer. I'm glad that this is choice. I guess everybody had to move to Belmar. There was no choice. And I guess I'm still surprised people living outside the house.
What I'd call the brigade people.
I mean,
Clance, you saw the big ladybug, right?
yes. Yeah. I mean,
What I mean
have you
is
seen my dog?
very.
They seem like
What I mean are more than people. Elsewhere knows the name of every plant you've ever seen in the original Latin. And he says it like it's nothing. And Mom can grow anything. Forsythia is the one who fixed the soil so we could grow stuff. September keeps everybody safe. And Atlas and Forsythia and elsewhere, they're the ones who do the burns to make sure that things grow later on in the season. So that we always have to. That's all to say that this is what they've done their whole lives. Where Mom's from back in Ireland, it was all green. It was all flowers and water and moors. And
Ireland far away.
very far. It's gone, but she still talks about it.
Sorry.
I said the same thing once, and she said, home is here now. So it sucks, but it could be worse.
I like it here.
I'm sorry, by the way, that I didn't tell you I was there before.
I had to hide. Check myself. So
January, do you know what time dawn is tomorrow? In January, just thinks. Do you mean regular dawn or civil dawn? Of course I mean civil dawn. Jesus, okay. Probably 5:45, 6 o'clock. Spring, so it's pretty early. Well, we have to wait to make sure that the wolves go back to their den. As soon as we're sure the coast is clear, when we get up September, we'll probably go and do a round elsewhere and make sure everything's okay. And then we can go get your car, and I guess Mom and Dad will tell us where we're going. Yeah. Mom says you're always supposed to be polite to guests, and we've never had guests before. So this is pretty cool.
yeah, I've only recently met kids my age. It's nice.
Good night. And the door closes behind you, and you head back to the party. Seraphine and Aubergine are asleep. Dinah is not asleep, but Dinah kind of just smiles knowingly at you and goes back to putting more stickers on her shoulder.
He does what he does virtually every night. Journal everything he learned from the day, and he sends everything that day to Desta. And then
The 5 of you settle down into a nest, borrowed blankets and moss. Sounds of the lives that live here year-round being lived coming to you muffled and hypnotic. As the party goes to sleep, a set of cold gray eyes appear at the window of their attic.
You can fly?
The set of eyes blinks once, twice, 3 times, and then does not blink again until dawn.
that's terrifying.
And that's where we're going to end things today, guys.